Yay for money. Oh, I have to go all the way over there. Shit. I went to the wrong flight point. And I didn't realize. I wouldn't have known until I got here anyways. I thought it was in Darshire, but it's not. It's like way over west. So I'll have to go all the way to Sentinel on the bird.
Where would you like to fly to?
Safe travel.
Ah, this will be proof against the fiend Morbin Fell. Well done, you are ready. Morbin Fell will fall. Morbin Fell hides in his lair, the house perched atop the hill to the east overlooking the Ravenhill Cemetery. His time in this land is drawing to an end. Use Morbin's Bane against him. It will render his protective magics powerless. Slay him, and save us from his wickedness. Be the instrument of my revenge and a hero of Duskwood.
Oh no.
Warp drive active. Warp drive active. Docking request accepted. Docking request accepted.
Fuck, I forgot a Stormwind step, but that's alright. Okay,
Examined.
Oops.
Morbid Fell has been defeated. The Dark Riders are still at large, but a small piece of that which I had hoped beyond hope has come to pass. You have done the impossible, and your deeds will forever live in the legends of Duskwood. Go, adventurer. And perhaps one day fate may bring you back to me. Go with honor, friend.
I suppose that's a good cloak for bear or something like that. Okay, I'm gonna kill the EvE music. And I'm gonna load something on YouTube. Let's see what's going on in the world today. I know that we had another whole transgression thing overseas. Yep, and yep, I think the Philip DeFranco would be good.
Watching the Philip DeFranco show, I got an extra large one for you today.
Yeah,
We got a lot of
Philip
news
DeFranco. Thank you for the excellent content from my stream. I've liked and sub to your channel. We gonna listen to you like a podcast.
to talk about. We're talking about all the new information that's come out around the megachurch shooting. Jon Stewart taking on Trump and Biden.
Megachurch. There was a megachurch shooting. That's something that I forgot he mentioned yesterday, and I totally spaced that. So let's go direct about that one, because I have no idea what's going on. I don't like being I like considering myself kind of up to date, or I try to, anyways. Yeah. So looking for YouTube home, mega church news, mega church story. Here's the New York Post, but I don't know if I trust them. Nope, this isn't it. Well, I don't know. Let's hear what the story is from him then.
They're saying Billie Eilish and Taylor Swift are the future. Credit score dating, news layoffs. This
Future of what?
craziness. And then there's even more.
Future of what? Girls' clothing, music, and fashion, and yeah, I would say. Are they the future of the human race? Like, yeah, I'd say so, but like, you know, half of it. Girls are good. I love women. You know, I'm dead serious. I like women are great. Love women. Love their influence. You know, big fan. But are they the future? We're all the future. I think they say the same.
So buckle up, hit that like button to let YouTube know you like these daily dives into the news, and let's just jump into it. Starting with, we need to talk about the shooting at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church and what we know.
Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church. Okay, Joel Osteen shooting is what I'm looking for here. So, Joel Osteen. There was a church shooting. Lakewood Church. Where? Lakewood what?
So far. Because on Sunday, a 36-year-old Hispanic woman entered this Houston megachurch at around 2 p.m. as a Spanish language
Houston. Oh, Houston. God damn it, man. And it's a woman?
to begin. And very notably here, Lakewood is a very highly attended church with around 45,000 attending services weekly, which makes it the third largest megachurch in the country. And according to the police, this woman wore a trench coat, carried a backpack, and had her 7-year-old son at her side while armed with 2 rifles. With a search warrant,
Trench coat, backpack, and her 7-year-old?
The woman claimed to have a bomb and was carrying a yellow in-color rope and substances consistent with the manufacture of explosive devices.
Wow, the rain looks really good.
The law enforcement later said that they didn't find any explosives at the scene. And with us, you had investigators saying the woman and her son entered the church after she pointed an AR-15 at an unarmed security guard.
AR-15,
and then quickly began to open fire inside a hallway, but 2 off-duty officers working security at the church responded immediately. Those 2 being identified as Houston Police Officer Christopher Moreno and Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission Agent Adrian Herrera. Those officers exchanged gunfire, and the woman was shot and killed. Though also the woman's son was also shot in the head during the exchange and remains in the hospital in critical condition as of recording. With that, the police saying right now it's unclear who shot the child. Beyond that, another 57-year-old man was shot in the hip and hospitalized, but officials have said he has since been discharged. And a very key thing here is that during a press conference yesterday, Houston Police Commander Chris Hassig said that all of the gunfire happened in the church hallway, with the 2 officers preventing it from spilling over into the main sanctuary where worshipers were sent scrambling for cover and safety after hearing gunshots, which is why you had law enforcement officials applauding these 2 men, saying they are heroes who helped prevent a mass shooting. Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission Chairman Kevin Lilly saying
these 2 officers.
So it was like a fracas with 5 people. Thank God. Thank God that lady did not AR-15 that church. Fuck mass killers. Fuck mass killers. I said it right after Century 16 the next day. The next day when I was like a mile down the road from it. And we watched Batman. And I wrote it then on the Batman sign, and I put it on my fucking wall. Fuck mass killers, you know what I'm saying? I took the Batman sign that I got from that fucking night. I knew it was going to be a collectible, and I marred it, because for me, it represented everything I hated about Colorado. The violence. The violence is the only thing about Colorado I didn't like. So I took the Batman banner from that night and I said, fuck mass killers. I almost took my friends to that theater. Like, I'm not kidding. I was a mile from Century 16. You think I'm full of shit, but no, we went to see Batman at the Colorado Boulevard. IMAX Theater, you know, it's called Regal, I think. Regal. Yeah, Regal, Colorado Boulevard. Regal something or another. And we were going to get tickets at the Aurora one because the Colorado Boulevard one sold out. Then we have friends. My best friend's sister was like hunting for tickets there that evening. So was I. And we actually scared up the 9 tickets that we needed. And we went to the midnight showing. We were drunk as hell. It was one of the best nights of my life. It was the best night of my life, almost one of them. But then the next day, we woke up and we realized that just a mile down the road, terrible tragedy had happened.
In the face of rifle fire at point blank range. And they continued to fire until the perpetrator was neutralized. And they did not yield. They were a wall that existed between worshipers and terror, between freedom of religion and murder.
Now, with this, as far as what we know about the shooter, officials have not yet officially identified a motive. You know, yesterday's presser provided some early information law enforcement had discovered, specifically talking about the AR-15 the shooter used and saying
there was a sticker on the buttstock of the rifle that stated Palestine. A sticker simply stated Palestine.
Oh, come on.
We have uncovered some items. We do have some anti-Semitic writings that we have uncovered during this process, but like I said,
they want to say it's Palestinian.
Into it, it is very.
They want to say that this is about Palestine in Houston, Texas.
We are getting new information as the hours change.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it from.
So we are going to be delving into that more.
I don't also went on to say that the officials believe the attacker acted alone and wasn't part of a bigger group.
Yep, I bet she did.
And we do want to state that through our investigation, I mentioned anti-Semitic writing. We do believe that there was a familial dispute that has taken place between her ex-husband and her ex-husband's family, and some of those individuals are Jewish. So we believe that might possibly be where all of this stems from.
The big thing here with this whole story, a woman who the media has identified as the shooter's ex-mother-in-law wrote a Facebook post yesterday where she claimed that her former daughter-in-law raged against Israel and Jews in a pro-Palestinian rant. But despite that, the ex-mother-in-law, who CNN reported is a rabbi, said, quote, "This has nothing to do with Judaism or Islam." As far as why this woman targeted an evangelical megachurch, that remains unclear. Now, it's been reported that court records show the shooter was going through a bitter divorce and custody battle. During that time, her ex-mother-in-law reached out to staff at Lakewood for pastoral advice. So notably, the records don't say which staff she contacted. And a spokesperson for the church said he didn't believe members or leaders of the church knew the attack. Through all of this, as others have noted, that Osteen, like many other evangelical leaders, has expressed solidarity with Israel and held events there. But again, this is law enforcement officials say that the matter is currently not being investigated as a hate crime, with them noting that there are a lot of other things at play here and they're looking into it. This, including a history of mental illness that was documented not just by family members but by police as well, with court filings reportedly showing that the shooter's former mother-in-law sought a conservatorship of her son, alleging that this woman was mentally ill and that the boy was being neglected and abused. And she echoed some of those claims in her Facebook post, claiming that the shooter had previously been treated for schizophrenia. The shooter also had a checkered past with numerous arrests, the authorities saying that the attacker had multiple aliases, including both male and female names. With that,
I wonder what stuff's online about this already. The internet sleuths are probably all over this. They're like, a female mass shooter, really. We've never really had one of those. And yeah, if I had to guess, if there was something that would make a woman act like a mass shooter, it would be religion. We know that the times that women have been mass killers often have to do with bombings of abortion clinics, stuff like that. But women are not killers, almost really not. They're like, you know, it's like 1/5 of the time.
Repeatedly spreading this claim and a bunch of others on the right running with that.
The trans terrorist who shot up a Texas church was mentally ill. Oh, it's a trans woman? Well, but then it's like, I don't know. So, like, God damn it, we get into uncomfortable discussions here about like what definitions are. So you say woman not to offend anybody, you know, and that's cool. We don't want to offend the trans community, but was this a woman? Was this somebody born a woman, or was it somebody who trans, you know, planted? And
that narrative is including reply guy Elon Musk, who suggested with zero evidence that hormones for gender-affirming care could be a major causal factor in violence. But we also ended up saying Fox News eventually... Oh my
God, they're saying it's because of trans... God damn it, this world is so twisted and fucked up. I mean, and the trans is the least of it. I mean, that's the least of it. It's the church stuff, the murder stuff, the mass killer stuff, the supposed religion stuff. Are they trans or are they Palestine? Decide which side of the tribal war this mass shooting represents. It's kind of weird. You know,
Noting
it's
that she was
like,
in fact the biological mother of her 7-year-old. This after combing through past police reports and conducting.
okay, so she is the biological mother of her 7-year-old. She is not a so it was a woman who became a man then?
Numerous interviews with people that she knew. And according to the Associated Press, county records showed that under her various aliases,
I just wanted to know. It's not that it matters. I'm just curious.
Those charges range from forging a $100 bill to stealing socks, hats, and makeup to assault for kicking a detention officer, which landed her in jail for 180 days. And as a part of her history with mental illness, authorities said that the shooter was placed under emergency detention in 2016, though they didn't give more information. But more recently and most significantly, in 2022, she was arrested on misdemeanor weapons charges. And massively important here, during yesterday's presser, a reporter noted in a question to officials that records show that this woman had actually had weapons taken away from her in 2022. And then even beyond that, the FBI had literally questioned her about her efforts to purchase a weapon last year. But when the reporter asked how the shooter was able to get a hold of those weapons, officials just said they were still investigating. But they also said that it appeared she had purchased the AR-15 she used legally just months ago in December. And then when asked if the police had opportunities to intervene sooner, Houston Police Chief Troy Finner tried to avoid direct responsibility.
Oh, good, they knew about it.
You want to say that, but there are millions upon top of millions of people who have a history, and
of course, yeah, but I mean, like that, yeah, like, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. It's like I don't like how you're painting this, and it seems like they want to paint this like it's a staged event or something. And I'm not saying it's a hoax because it's not. I'll be right back, guys. That's okay. Okay, time to actually eat. Oh no, I'm being killed. Why am I being killed? I have an Atemo doing something and I can't get focus on this game and I'm going to die. I want you to heal. And I want you to attack. Nope, dead. Instant dead. The second I AFK, instant dead inside of 30 seconds. I was fine for 4 hours. The second I AFK, instant death. Like inside of 10 seconds, it's just crazy like that. You see the RNG. I go AFK sometimes 5-10 minutes, totally AFK. Doesn't matter. Yep, and it doesn't matter. Like by that point, like, you know, inside of 10 seconds, if I go AFK, inside of 10 seconds, I'm instant dead. It was fine. The elemental and the cat were fine. I wouldn't have left it. They weren't. And I went to go AFK, and inside of 10 seconds, the game decided to steal my quarters. The second I left. I'm talking to the second. See it? Even before I could do anything. Catastrophic 700 damage came through. If I hadn't left my chair, it would have been fine. It would have been 40 damage or something. I left the chair, and 700 damage came through instantly. Which is like... okay, and aggro and all this other crap the second I stand up. It's just like, man, it makes you not want to leave the chair. Their pop aggro is such fucking garbage. I hate some of their design so much.
Direct responsibility.
She did have a history, if you want to say
they did
that,
have a history.
But there are millions upon top of millions of people who have a history, And to your question and answering it, the response is that we all need to continue to work together.
But numerous people have literally said that they did exactly that, and law enforcement didn't do shit. With yesterday, 6 different neighbors of the shooter telling reporters that she had threatened and harassed them and displayed firearms, making them fear going outside of their homes. And in July of 2022, one neighbor said she filed a police complaint against the shooter for allegedly threatening her with a handgun. In fact, the situation got so bad that 5 months ago, the neighbors got together to spend a whole day where they talked to local elected officials, the police, the sheriff's office, and Houston's legal department. But still, nothing was done, and she was still allowed to own and purchase firearms after all of that. With many, including the attacker's ex-mother-in-law, arguing that Texas's lax gun regulations and lack of red flag laws are to blame. But ultimately, that is where we are with this, and again, remember, we're getting more updates, it's a developing situation, and if and when more information comes out, we'll be there. And then we need to talk about whatever the hell just happened in this video. Because that is Liseberg Park, one of Sweden's biggest and most popular amusement parks. And it's been building an additional water park section, which reportedly cost over $10 million and was set to open this summer. But also that's probably not gonna happen because of what you just saw. Because yesterday, for unknown reasons, a fiery explosion erupted at the construction site, with it hurling flaming debris across the area, and as a result, it ignited several large water slides in a building. Now, fortunately, no guests were there since the park was still under construction, but you have the Associated Press reporting that 16 people were slightly injured and one park employee is missing. But either way, we saw this fire send a black plume of smoke drifting over Sweden's second largest city, Gothenburg, the authorities having to evacuate nearby hotel and office buildings, as well as warning people to stay indoors and close off all windows or ventilation. And then we are still getting more and more news and fallout from the Super Bowl, with it now being reported that this Super Bowl broke historic ratings, reaching 123.4 million viewers via CBS and its other platforms, with it being described as the most watched telecast ever, or the most watched telecast since the moon landing, which one is huge. Though two, we need to remember these are like very America-specific numbers, because if you want to talk about crazy numbers, I think FIFA said that the last World Cup, 1.5 billion people watched it live. So the NFL and the Super Bowl, huge. But that also kind of hits on why the NFL is interested in like getting the sport out of the country. But there is a lot of attention on this year's historic numbers for a number of reasons. Right? Because even though the last Super Bowl was another record breaker, this follows a 5-year period where ratings were really in flux, declining in 2019, hitting a historic low in 2021. Though also, I think it's important to note that comparison here can be tricky, and that's because over the last several years, Nielsen's actually changed how it counts out-of-home viewing at venues like bars. So with all this, you have many people attributing this viewership jump, at least in part, to Taylor Swift. Right? She was at the game rooting for Kelsey and the Chiefs. She's been to a number of games this season, the Peacock playoff game in history. And in fact, 20% of viewers said that they were rooting for Kansas City because of her. Seemingly, this is just continuing the trend of everything she touches turns to gold. Right? I mean, recently, the Grammys, they've been struggling with their ratings. They saw a substantial uptick this year. She was nominated for and won several awards. I mean, hell, even the Golden Globes, which had practically been ready to be lowered into its grave, they saw a ratings boost this year with her being one of the most notable stars in attendance. But you also have people saying it's not just Taylor Swift, arguing that this is actually part of a much larger phenomenon, which is women driving the economy. Right? Saying from the box office to concerts, women were running the world last year. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see if broadcasters pick up on that trend, if they capitalize on female-centric entertainment in the near future. I mean, it's already something we're seeing with the Oscars, which is heavily leaning into the Barbie of it all, with them even releasing a promo this morning in a mini Barbie spoof starring some of the cast, especially because in all likelihood, you know, it's not going to win Best Picture or a lot of its categories, with many saying that its best bet right now is for Best Song with Billie Eilish. You know, ultimately, we'll have to wait and see. Because over time, you know, we're really going to be able to see the scope of this trend, how specific it is to certain artists, or if it becomes like an industry-wide thing. Especially as there are a number of different trends that I find fascinating right now, like kind of the recent resurgence of country music. You know, obviously led by the likes of Morgan Wallen. Some friends recently put me on to Zach Bryan. And we're seeing more and more artists actually jump into the space. Right, Post Malone's been a good example. Beyonce now more recently, although they're not technically a new avenue for her, but then that like starts like this whole other conversation. There was that whole Daddy Lessons controversy years back. But yeah, all of this is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. And then, you know, I probably have 3 pairs of Raycon earbuds. One for my gym bag, a set on my desk, and a pair on my nightstand. And funny enough, I use my Raycon everyday earbuds just about every day. So thank you, Raycon, for being a partner and sponsor of the PDS. Because, you know, Raycons are affordable, starting at half the price of other premium audio brands, so you don't have to choose between products. You can get one of each, or a pair and a spare. Something that works for me is that they have 3 sound profiles. Pure sound for when I'm listening to podcasts, balance sound when the music changes up. And I love the bass sound, especially when I'm running. To noise isolation, but if you need to hear like what's going on around you, just touch and hold the right earbud logo for 3 seconds and you're in awareness mode. Right? Works great when you travel. Also, Raycons are here for you with thoughtful features like 32-hour battery life, perfect for my hikes, riding my bike, listening to podcasts. With optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, these earbuds are so comfortable and they're not budging. I mean, it's no wonder that they've racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. So are you ready for great high-quality earbuds? Just go to buyraycon.com/DeFranco to get up to 15% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping. Now remember, they offer a 30-day free return policy. And then
now I'm
Australia
exactly
is
where I
about to
started.
outlaw doxing,
Wow.
and the specifics around this are very interesting because you also have activists saying that what inspired this move from Australia, it shouldn't be classified as doxing. Right? Because what we're seeing right now is Australia's Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, asking the country's Attorney General to write up legislation and revisions to Australia's Privacy Act. And while so far nothing has been drafted and the exact details are up in the air, you do have different
Approaching
outlets saying there will be a
Stargate.
handful of focuses. According to Bloomberg, measures could include takedown notices and penalties for social media companies. Vice saying the potential changes will make doxing a crime punishable by jail time. Also, the AP
Approaching
saying fines.
Stargate.
And then as far as why doxing all of a sudden has become such a priority in Australia, notably, this is coming after a 900-page transcript from a WhatsApp group chat of Jewish writers, artists, and academics was leaked, with reports saying that it was published by pro-Palestine activists and that the information shared included names, pictures, professions, and social media accounts. With Attorney General Mark Dreyfus saying in a release that the overall trend of doxing is a deeply disturbing development and adding, the recent targeting of members of the Australian Jewish community through those practices like doxing was shocking, but sadly, this is far from being an isolated incident. We live in a vibrant, multicultural community, which we should strive to protect. No Australian should be targeted because of their race or because of their religion, though this, as some activists have defended the leak, claiming this is whistleblowing from a whistleblower within the chat. And Clementine Ford, an activist who shared the information, arguing on Instagram that there was a public interest in the leaks as it
Autopilot
demonstrates, quote, the
jumping.
coordinated efforts of those working to silence criticism of the Zionist state, and claiming that people in that chat were discussing
Autopilot
tactics to harm the
jumping.
livelihoods and reputations of people simply for being Palestinian or for calling for an end to the genocide against the people of Gaza. But they're also saying that no addresses, phone
Warping to
numbers, or emails
Stargate.
were shared, and that it's wrong
Warp
to claim the
drive
leak is
active.
doxing. But there you have Prime Minister Albanese pushing back against that, saying that hundreds of people in
Warping
the chat
to
were providing
Stargate.
support to one another,
Warp drive
telling local radio.
active.
The idea that in Australia someone should be targeted because of their religion, because of their faith, whether they be Jewish or Muslim or Hindu or Catholic, it's just completely unacceptable. Saying there should also be new proposals to strengthen laws against hate speech. But with this, I'd love to know your thoughts. One, of course, generally about the criminality of doxing, but also two, what are your thoughts around the debate of whether what we're talking about here is whistleblowing or doxing? Because depending on where you go on social media right now, people have drastically different opinions. And then, Jon Stewart returned to host The Daily Show for the first time in 9 years last night, and it was like chicken noodle soup for my news-rattled brain. And notably, in his first show back, he tackled one of the most debated issues that Americans have been talking about the past week.
One thing we know for certain is this. We have two candidates who
Approaching
are chronologically
Stargate.
outside the norm of anyone
Approaching
who's run,
Stargate.
for the presidency in this country, in the history of this country. They are the oldest people ever to run for president, breaking by only 4 years the record that they set.
But for a number of reasons, people have been expressing concern that both Biden and Trump, though in the past week, mainly Biden, are too old to be president. Trump's 77, Biden's 81. By the end of their second terms, they'd be 82 and 86. And with that, maybe
Trump is 77. Now, I thought he was younger than that. I thought he was like 71 or something like that. I had no idea he was 77. No fucking wonder. It's a geriatric idiot.
this poll finding
They're
that
both
86% of
geriatric
Americans
idiots.
think that Biden's too old to run, whereas only 62% said the same about Trump, which is interesting not only because of the gap between the two candidates, but because both of those numbers are actually much higher than they were back in September.
Autopilot
This is becoming
jumping.
a growing issue. But back in September, 74% saying Biden's too
Oh,
old,
it's a
and 49%
footlocker?
saying
I
Trump.
misunderstood.
Notably, there has been a lot more discussion over the past week because of the special counsel report. Because in that, even though there was
Autopilot
evidence that Biden had
jumping.
willfully retained classified
Warping
documents,
to
he did not
Stargate.
recommend charges. So one of the
Warp drive
reasons they threw in
active.
there is that he would most likely appear to a jury as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. With a report claiming it was observed that he had trouble recalling the years he served as
Warping
vice
to
president and didn't
Stargate.
remember the exact
Warp
date the
drive
info died,
active.
which then resulted on Sunday the president gathering reporters for a press conference to refute the accusations of mental decline, with many saying he started off strong, it was solid, he was leaving, and then he went back, and it was not a great look.
Well, many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment.
That is your judgment.
Conduct of the response
Conduct of a response.
in the Gaza Strip has been
Oh no, Sleepy Joe. Say it ain't so. That's not a man that should be running our country.
the top.
But he also confused the
Approaching
president of Egypt with
Stargate.
the president of Mexico. Not following last week, where he confused two different German chancellors. Days before that, confusing two different
Approaching
presidents. And with
Stargate.
this, we've seen two different kinds of defenses of Biden. The first being these are just kind of occasional gaffes, saying that behind the scenes he's actually mentally sharp, he's focused, he's always working. And then separately, though sometimes connected, you have people saying if this is disqualifying for Biden, then Trump's no better. Because the list of his gaffes and flubs and just outright kind of just insane things goes on and on. Whether it be, I don't know, what's most recent. He confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi. He praised Hungary's prime minister for his leadership of Turkey. He claimed he defeated Obama in the 2016 election. He warned the country's on the verge of World War II. And among other things, last night,
He claimed he beat Obama. Oh, yeah.
Obama in the 2016 election.
Barack Obama.
He warned the country's on the verge of World War II. And among other things, last night, Stewart playing the that Trump magnets clip.
All I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets.
As well as deposition.
Autopilot
Yeah, I
jumping.
would say that's about probably the extent
Autopilot
of what you know
jumping.
about magnets. Yeah, is put them in water. Yeah. Or don't put them in water, I guess.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive.
What's
warping to
happening?
Stargate.
Our country
Warp
is
drive
run by
active.
geriatric fools and like insurrectionists and like the deep state is out of control and the oligarchs are flexing their Satan muscles. Everybody's thinking about doomsday prep. And like there might be war coming. There might be war coming. Uh-oh.
Where Trump, who says he has a great memory, does not recall saying that. Right, so here's the thing. If everyone is seeing this, they're seeing the Biden stuff, they're seeing the Trump stuff, there is the very big question of, well, why do voters see the two men so differently? Well, with that, you have places like the New York Times saying it may be their different visual presentations. Writing Biden's voice has
Approaching
grown softer,
Stargate.
raspier,
Approaching
his hair thinner
Stargate.
and whiter. Trump, by contrast, often dyes his hair and is unnaturally tan, while Biden often holds his upper body stiff, creating an impression of frailty. Trump uses his physicality to project strength and stamina in front of crowds. But also, speculation like this is kind of telling, because really all we have to go on is what we can see in public. According to several memory
Physicality. The
experts
man
who
wears
talked to the Washington
diapers.
Post, that actually doesn't tell us much. Saying that the candidate's cognitive abilities, they can't be evaluated based on anecdotal memory lapses. With one saying many of us have memory slips all the time. We can't remember where we put our car keys, we can't remember dates or names, but we don't really notice the mistakes when we're...
Yeah, I would say that, I would say that a 25-year-old man is not likely to mess up who a prime minister is of a certain country, but I think a 70-year-old man would. Why do we have a 70-year-old man running the country?
Autopilot jumping.
I don't understand what this is. Old footlocker. What is this? I don't know why you're giving that off.
Warping to Stargate. Autopilot drive jumping. Active.
The Legend of Stalvin. But I don't have that, so...
Warping to Stargate.
Whatever. My
Warp
thing
drive
is
active.
glitched or something, so... I don't know. So, here we go.
in memory seem to have more significance. And there, you have people noting neither Biden nor Trump are alone in their flubs. Some of my favorite random ones is like in 2012, Mitt Romney shared a memory of a jubilee in Detroit that actually took place before he was born. 2008, Hillary Clinton told a story about being under sniper fire in Bosnia a decade earlier. Though later, she admitted she misremembered being told there was a potential threat of sniper fire, which is why I have experts adding that to really know whether someone's declining, you need to perform a formal evaluation. As for Biden, we have a letter from his longtime doctor released by the White House nearly a year ago that described him as a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male after a physical examination. But also, like when Ronnie Jackson was in the White House and he was glazing up Trump on those things, the people that want to believe those statements are going to believe those statements, and then everyone else is going to understandably be skeptical. Because again, we're talking about a situation involving two people where one is in his 80s and the other is elected will be in his 80s during that term. And while specifically looking at Democrats, 73% say that Biden's too old to serve another term compared to only 35% of Republicans saying the same about Trump. Another perspective is that many left-leaning people have said that they will vote for a comatose Biden than an anything Trump.
Yep,
Who
than
find
an
it rushing
anything
to do
Trump.
whatever the hell they want to NATO members who don't pay up more.
Yep, I'm actually, you know, honestly, you know, here, hot take, and I've never said that the phrase before, but here's a hot take, right? I'm actually okay when the Democrats don't do anything and they just hold the crown like a regent, right? I'm actually okay with Joe Biden. I want them to just hold the crown, not do any insurrections or anything, and just not fuck up the world. Don't send us to war.
Autopilot jump drive active.
Worry about the infrastructure and the internet, yup, and the taxes, you know. And that's about all I really need from them. I'm okay with figureheads sitting there and doing nothing.
Warping to
Just
Stargate.
only the president, not
active.
the Congress. I can't have Congress sitting there doing nothing. There's no excuse for that. That's 300 and what is it? Like 300 and some odd people, so 340 people or whatever it is. I forget what it is, 286 or something. Forget how many. And like you know, and that, so those people can be ranging anywhere from 35 to 60, I'd say 70. And like that's okay. But those people can't, like I'm okay with a president sitting there and doing nothing. I'm just not okay with the Congress sitting there doing nothing. I want 300 people to make sure this the actual like running of the states and the constituencies and the districts are done well, and it's done with aplomb and a great care. Now they do some of that, but a lot of the time they just sit around and argue.
Approaching Stargate.
And I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Like, I don't know. I'm an ex-druggie, burnt out, and my faculties are lower at the age of 40. I'm on disability, and I'm not one to talk, you know? Real talk, I mean, that it's just not, it's not my place to talk.
He's been alleging it allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and
Autopilot
articles, even
jumping.
those found in the Constitution. But again, none of that dismisses the legitimacy of people concerned about age. And again, while it appears that there is a double standard and hypocrisy at play regarding like only being worried about the mental faculties of one of the candidates, especially given everything we can see from both, it doesn't dismiss those concerns. And at the very least, thinking about the country moving forward, there should be age caps in place. You can call it ageist, but y'all, both candidates are older than the average U.S. life expectancy. We're on the other end of the bell curve with these two fucking guys. But that's where I'm gonna leave it for now, because the stage is set and it's gonna play out how it plays out. And then Democrats have a loser mentality. And Dems, understand, I'm not coming at you for no reason. I'm not being judgy, name calling. I'm just slinging facts. Because while according to Pew Research, when they surveyed Americans, the majority of all Americans believe that their side is losing, Democrats just always feel like they're losing no matter what is actually happening. Like Republicans, when Obama was president, they were like, oh, we're losing, man. But then Donald Trump won the presidency, and over the next 4 years, they were like, we're winning, baby. This is the most winning that's ever been won. And then in 2020, Biden won, and they were like, this is the bottom. We're just eating so many L's. That's what's actually fueling the obesity epidemic. But Democrats from 2016 to 2024, the majority have said our side is losing, dropping from 80% of Dems in 2020 to 60% in 2022. Dems, that is a loser's mindset. Not only did you knock Trump out of office, you won 2 Senate seats in Georgia.
Yeah, we like I think the Democrats are doing the best they've done in a long time. I think the Democrats are doing better than Clinton. Like, I just don't really support the Democratic Party.
Approaching Stargate.
I vote for them, but I don't support them. I vote for them so they'll hold my vote, and they'll hold my country, and they won't invade Afghanistan, and they won't, like, you know, of the two, Republican and Democrat, I would say that the Republicans are the warmongers. And I don't know, they're both bloodthirsty. You know, they're both the same party, essentially, but, I don't know. When George Bush came in, we had Afghanistan pretty much immediately. What else am I supposed to think, guys? I know I've been kind of like not very fair or partisan or whatever, but it's like, what else am I supposed to fucking think or say? Think about the last guy. Think about the last Republican who had the helm, right? COVID.
To Stargate.
The bungling of COVID. Think about the Republican before that. The bungling of 9/11. The bungling of Afghanistan. Think about the Republican before that. Reaganomics. That one's a little bit better than the last two that we had. A little bit better, you know. And then what do we have before that?
Warping to Stargate.
Nixon.
Warp drive active.
So, like, that's a long, long line of criminals and felons and dingbats.
Approaching Stargate.
And I'm not one to talk because I'm not a felon, but I am a criminal. You know, I've been prosecuted of some crimes and, you know, so I'm not one to talk, you know, whatever. I'm just as guilty as that sort of behavior, but I'm not running the country. The only thing I run is my right hand. You know what I'm saying? These guys run the country.
Approaching Stargate.
Places like Alpharetta would be my second home, and the fact that Georgia went blue, crazy. The fact that the majority of you didn't feel like
Georgia went blue. Yeah, I hope it's like a blue summer there, because it's the South. It's the deep South.
winners. Crazy. It's like someone bought you a PS5 and you're depressed because it's going to take you away from all your reading. Though,
jumping.
I do understand why a lot of y'all can have a negative outlook. Because while in the last few cycles, Democrats have been overperforming during election days, that is also happening as you have a very, very conservative Supreme Court drastically changing the shape of America. And doing so in ways that only they can do. And obviously the most drastic shift to the Supreme Court happened during the Trump presidency, where he put 3 people in place. That also speaks to the importance of the elections that you won, because it would be even more conservative and thus conservative for longer in the future. Had you not gone to cast your votes, you wouldn't have Ketanji Brown Jackson there. And that's the way politics works. It's slow and it sucks and it's shitty, and then it all happens at once. But that's where I'll leave it, because if you're losing, even when you're winning, I don't know what kind of life that is. And then, you know, if you're like most folks, you're probably overpaying your mobile provider for the exact same services that you can get from today's sponsor, Unreal Mobile. Seriously, why are we paying the big guys 2 to 3 times more when you can get unlimited talk, text, and data starting at $20 a month with Unreal? I mean, they're powered by the #1 most reliable network in America according to Global Wireless Solution. The only difference is you don't pay a premium for splashy marketing or stores you'll never visit. Just unlimited connectivity at an unbeatable price. And for a limited time, buy 2 months of service, and Unreal will toss in a 3rd month free. Reliable service, no contract hassles, 3 months for the price of 2. And that's not all. Limited everything 1 month free with a buy 2, get 1 deal, and major ongoing savings. So if you're tired of expensive plans and you want freedom without compromise,
welcome to my in-weary traveler. What can I do for you?
So go to unrealdefranco.com or just scan the QR code on the screen to learn more.
Welcome to my in-weary traveler.
And then money matters in pretty much every avenue of life. Rightly or wrongly, that is the case. And I know you know that. But kind of an experiment or a stunt, a dating app has just been launched for people with only a credit score of 675 or higher. The app is called Score, and it will only exist for the next 90 days. While on the surface level, you might go, this just sounds so fucking superficial. The research and the data that's out there, it shows that you might actually have a better opportunity in finding a long-term partner this way. There's research from the Federal Reserve showing that if you have a high credit score, you are not only more likely to get into a serious relationship, but that relationship is also more likely to last longer. And the researchers, you know, they argue this isn't some sort of superficial thing, saying that credit scores might actually be indicative of deeper qualities and relationship skills, particularly as they relate to trustworthiness. And going on to say, our results present new evidence on how a mismatch in trustworthiness within a household may affect its stability. Though I will add, and I understand, you know, a credit score and like how much money you have, it's not a direct one-to-one exactly, but as someone who has existed in both realms, money stresses or the lack of them, I think also affect long-term relationships as well. Though at the same time, you have places like TechCrunch reporting, you know, this is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, saying especially when you consider that the average U.S. citizen's credit score is 716, with Black and Hispanic people more likely than other racial groups to have a score below 640. Right? Essentially arguing that in addition to being blatantly classist, it has a low-key racial bias. But with all that said, I'm going to leave you with 2 things. The first is I'd love to know your thoughts, not only on this specific dating app, but your thoughts regarding credit scores and how that impacts relationships, because it's definitely an interesting thing to look at, because whenever I think about money and relationships, that's like a little more simplistic, right? Access to funds or not, that can add an extra layer of stress in a relationship. With credit scores, it feels a little bit more deep. But then also second, and this is kind of self-serving, though I'm mentioning it because I think it can genuinely help a lot of people. Forever ago, I invested in this company, cred.ai. It's your everyday spending card. You use it like a debit card, but it builds up your credit. And it makes sure that you never pay fees or interest or overspend. And I want to stress, this is not a sponsor spot. I normally make them pay me for the privilege of mentioning in the show, but I'm mentioning it here because I think it can help a lot of people, and I also want to be transparent that I do have an interest because I'm an investor. And then, there is a lot of bad news about the state of news right now. If you didn't see, this year started off with a massive series of massive layoffs in the journalism industry, impacting outlets and reporters left and right nationwide. While this would always be concerning, news layoffs at this scale have incredible consequences, especially in an election year, when fighting disinformation will be more important than ever and also seems harder than ever. And what makes all this even worse is this is a continuation of a problem. Right? It's not like it was all rainbows and sunshine going into 2024. 2023 saw layoffs at the Washington Post, NPR, and many more. Hell, just this last January, before the end of the month, the Los Angeles Times gutted over 20% of its newsroom, with the paper's owner saying that the move is, quote, painful for all, but it is imperative that we act urgently and take steps to build a sustainable and thriving paper for the next generation. And with that, claiming that the paper was losing $30 to $40 million annually without building toward higher readership or new advertising and subscription revenues. You also had Business Insider getting rid of 8% of its workers, NBC News slashing staffers, New York Daily News, Forbes, and Condé Nast holding walkouts amid cost-cutting measures. Then you've got Pitchfork getting folded into GQ, Sports Illustrated laying off enough staffers that the entire future of the publication is called into question. And if all of this sounds like so much and a mess, yes. If you're wondering, why does it feel like all of this is happening at once? There's actually a few reasons. Right, the way consumers take in the news is just rapidly changing. You get pretty much everything on social media, which means there are less eyeballs and articles and TV stations. You've got legacy outlets struggling to effectively monetize platforms, especially since they're struggling with online advertising. And here you have people like Jay Rosen, an associate professor
business
of
is dead.
journalism at
ESPN is dead.
Autopilot.
Anybody who doesn't know it is dumb. They haven't been paying attention for 15 years. Cell phones. It's not that hard.
A lot of newsrooms floundering, especially on local levels. In fact, according to data from Northwestern, in 2023, the U.S. lost on average 2.5 local papers a week. And that's left 204 counties with no local news outlet. And then there's just a bunch with only one local news source. And they estimate that another 228 counties are at risk of becoming news deserts in the next 5 years. And as you'd expect, this is largely impacting high poverty areas, which is absolutely devastating. You have entire and numerous communities just losing essential information pipelines, which you may think is nothing, but there's so much news that becomes big news on a national level that starts with local reporting. But again, even the big guys are struggling. Though, when we saw billionaires taking control of outlets like the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, many thought, hey, this is the answer. This is going to be the thing that solves it. But since both of those outlets just went through major layoffs, clearly that's not the case. And you have places like the Hollywood Reporter putting out pieces saying, unfortunately, it seems no category of owner appears able to salvage a media business in decline, with business models still stuck in the past and editorial models built for a world before Facebook, TikTok, and artificial intelligence. And actually, that last bit, artificial intelligence, is another big issue. Because while it can be and is used for a number of things, it can also be very helpful to spread misinformation. Fake stories, fake pictures, fake videos. And you've seen how fast fake bullshit can spread across the internet, with part of the job of a number of people who are being fired being debunking misinformation like that. And when you have this situation where there's less and less trust in what the fuck is actually real, you're left with a larger portion of the population or the electorate less informed, whether it be day to day in your personal and business life or at the ballot box every 2, 4, and/or 6 years. It's important to be informed. Which, on the note of elections, we're already seeing some of this play out. AI election misinformation scams, and experts fear that it is only going to get worse from here. With Oren Etzioni, an artificial intelligence expert, telling the AP, I expect a tsunami of misinformation. I can't prove that. I hope to be proven wrong, but the ingredients are there, and I am completely terrified. You can see a political candidate like President Biden being rushed to a hospital, and you can see bombings and violence that never occurred. And yeah, people could use this to manipulate voters or to just cause chaos. And the fact that this kind of misinformation is increasing while newsroom journalists are decreasing, it creates the perfect storm. And again, that storm exists outside of politics. How many times have we covered something on this show where someone turned to a journalist as their last resort and then finally got justice? They were finally heard. Some corrupt motherfucker was finally held accountable. As Emily St. Martin wrote, these stories have the ability to open and change minds, which in turn changes our culture. But the very big issue is I don't really see this trend changing in any way. And I don't know how realistic it is for any of these groups to actually evolve in a way where they're not just bleeding cash, which in turn will connect to a really long segment I'm going to release soon, because desperation and need for money, it sometimes results in not the best stuff. But for now, that is where I'm going to leave this one. And I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts, your concerns, your feelings about the picture that's being painted right now? Because it not only falls on all of us as news consumers, but also people existing in the world. And then finally today, we have Yesterday, Today, that segment for all you beautiful bastards that tune in daily, where we dive into the comments to see what y'all had to say about yesterday's show. With the first standout being so many people saying, if you're not growing, you're dying, that you want it on a shirt, in which case I'll think about it. Might be able to sneak that into next Tuesday's drop, which will include your mom's favorite cowboy, Take Me First, and we're unvaulting one of the most popular things we've ever sold, Don't Be Stupid gear. Though understandably and thankfully, a lot of the comments were about the more serious aspects of the news. Cesar Sanchez saying, thank you for highlighting Gaza right after the Super Bowl story. Thanks for not washing over true news. Appreciate you for that. Which I know in this segment, I often say, like, this might be a little bit too inside baseball. Whenever we can, we've been making these tweets, feeling more comfortable covering like the heavier, just horrendous news at the top of the show rather than the end. In the past, you know, we wouldn't do that because it felt like we were more likely to have the show completely suppressed by YouTube and, you know, it would just die. Like when you see those tweets, they're usually not for no reason. Also regarding Israel and Rafah, you had the one-ton hammer saying, how can the area north of Rafah be both cleared and still be a conflict zone? Why would there be a conflict in a clear area? And others adding, recall that Rafah is where Israel told Gaza they needed to go to be safe. The initial claims were that if you didn't go south when they warned people to evacuate their homes, it was your own fault. Then it shifted from going south to specifically going to Rafah. Now they're bombing Rafah, which they already were doing, but now explicitly. It wasn't that Israel bombed a place where a lot of people were sheltering. It was that they bombed the only place they told them to go to be safe. This is why allies are hard-pressed to say nothing. They know what Israel is on record of saying and how they've yet again gone against it. But then the final comment we'll touch on regarded strippers' rights, right? Because we talked about the possible stripper bill of rights that might go through in Washington.
Now is the time when the year is new and the moon shines bright. It is our time when the ancients
women
awake.
Should be strippers and they should
it
have
is
rights.
good to know the people of this land still pay homage to the olden races.
Her career in North Carolina. She had so much fun that she thought she could do it when she moved back home. But we live in Washington and she saw such a drastic change. Not only was she harassed by customers, she was drugged at one point and then blacklisted when one of the girls got jealous that she was making more money. She had to drive to Oregon every weekend to make more and better money. In closing, she told me it's great to see the girls are fighting back and she's hoping it turns around because dancing is a great career, but only if the clubs can properly protect the girls. And Sean Lewis adding, regarding the Washington strippers bill, I grew up in the east side and I heard that just recently the last club closed down since they couldn't make a profit. Not being able to sell alcohol really limits how a club can make money. I'm unsure where they can make money without taking money from the dancers or crazy high entrance fees. Right, and that's why a lot of supporters of the stripper bill of rights say that this will not work unless they also make it so that these clubs can serve alcohol. But that is where your daily dive into the news is going to end today. But don't worry, because as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe. Miss you every day. You like my oxygen.
Here's legal when Trump is not immune from prosecution.
No
Duh.
Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first.
So your answer is no.
Trump is not immune. No, this is not a COVID thing, it's a legal thing. American presidents are not immune from criminal prosecution if they break the law. Well, for now. The United States Court of Appeals for the District
Greetings.
of Columbia,
I am
aka
Kronos,
the DC
he who
Circuit,
never
has
forgets.
issued an opinion
My memory
answering
is without
the
flaw
court's
and
question.
exact to the most
Whether a
minor
president
detail.
can order
Trust
SEAL
me.
Team 6 to kill their political rivals without being charged with a crime. Now, the average American probably thought they already had the answer to this question because, like, duh. America declared its independence from Great Britain.
Hello,
because the
adventurer,
colonists
and
preferred
welcome to the
coffee over
Dark
tea,
Moon
hated being
Fair.
taxed, and didn't
There is
believe
so
in an
much to do
absolute
here at
monarch.
the fair that
The
it can be a
Declaration
little
of Independence
overwhelming
even
for our
includes agreements
first-time
about King
visitors.
George III
That's why I'm
ordering
here to
British
help.
Marines to kill
Do you have
two
any
Annapolis
questions?
sailors without being punished.
An
But then
excellent
Donald Trump
question.
got indicted
We have
for
many
crimes he
things
alleged
for
to
sale
commit
here
while
at the
being
fair.
president, and this ignited
If you
a
are
dispute
interested
over
in
whether
food
the
and drink,
president
then head over to
any
Stamp
crime
and
he wants, as
Solania's
long as
booth.
Congress says
My
it's fine
favorite is the Dark Moon Special Reserve. If you'd rather purchase something more exotic, then Laura may have just the thing for you. She specializes in rarities from all over the world. Glad you asked.
clearing the
Dark
way for
Moon
the
Fair.
criminal
Ticket
case against
redemption
Donald
here.
Trump for
Get your tickets.
election interference to proceed. And yes, before you even ask, it is possible the SCOTUS could overrule this decision, and we'll talk about...
You talked through the first 90 seconds of this entire video. Stupid NPCs. I came here for, as I remember it being... Such share. I remember it being... It's been so long, I don't remember.
what you want. Be seeing ya. You be careful, man.
Two-hour Fortune of Spirit buff.
What be on your mind?
I thought there was an XP buff, but I don't know. I can't remember. On the western side of the fair. The carousel. That's what I thought, but that's retail, I think. That is not, yeah, that is not classic. Classic doesn't have the carousel thing. There's the cannoneer. I remember that being kind of funny.
Welcome. Step right up. Don't be shy. This here is my pride and joy, the Blastenheimer 5000 Ultra Cannon. Ain't she pretty? You look a little big around the midsection, but I think you'll fit. Flying is so much fun. Want to learn how? Oh, that's simple. You use it like anything else you might activate. Don't worry, I'll take care of lighting the fuse. Once you're up in the air, you'll notice that you'll seem to float, but that won't last forever. What you're aiming for is a target on the lake way over yonder. Make sure that you begin your descent by detaching your wings at the right time to land in the water. Or, well, I don't sell life insurance. Wow.
But a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first.
So your answer is no.
Trump is not immune. No, this is not a COVID thing, it's a legal thing. American presidents are not immune from criminal prosecution if they break the law. Well, for now. The United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, aka the DC Circuit, has issued an opinion answering an important constitutional question: whether a president can order SEAL Team 6 to kill their political rivals without being charged with a crime. Now, the average American probably thought they already had the answer to this question because, like, duh. America declared its independence from Great Britain because the colonists preferred coffee over tea, hated being taxed, and didn't believe in an absolute monarch. The Declaration of Independence even includes a grievance about King George III ordering British Marines to kill 2 Annapolis sailors without being punished for it. But then Donald Trump got indicted for crimes he allegedly committed while being president, and this ignited a dispute over whether the president can commit any crime he wants as long as Congress says it's fine after the fact.
They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals has now slapped down this argument, clearing the way for the criminal case against Donald Trump for election interference to proceed. And yes, before you even ask, it is possible these SCOTUS
that's
could
what we do,
overrule
right?
this decision, and we'll talk about how likely that is. So let's start with how we got here. As you might have heard, Donald J. Trump was elected the 45th President of the United States on November 8th, 2016. He was sworn into office at noon on January 20th, 2017, and served until his term expired at noon on January 20th, 2021. At that moment, President Trump became former President Trump, and his successor, Joseph R. Biden, became president and began his own 4-year term. Now, although this sequence is mandated by the Constitution, according to the Court of Appeals, quote, it did not proceed peacefully. The government alleges that from the election day forward, quote, Trump denied that he had lost his bid for a second term and challenged the election results through litigation, pressure on state and federal officers, the organization of an alternate slate of electors, and other means. Now, in perhaps one of the worst legal takes of all time, some legal commentators, who should absolutely know better, have commented that it appears that this decision seems to say that Trump does not get a presumption of innocence, pointing to a section where the Court of Appeals takes the allegations as true. This is not a conspiracy against Donald Trump. This is the standard that every Court of Appeals always uses when you're dealing with a motion to dismiss. The court was testing the legal sufficiency, not the factual sufficiency. This is the standard that every court always uses. This is not unusual. But the court continued summarizing the allegations. These efforts culminated in a rally at the Capitol on January 6, 2021, the day set by the Electoral Count Act for the transfer of presidential power between Trump and Biden. The rally, headlined by President Trump, resulted in a march of thousands to the Capitol and the violent breach of the Capitol building. The breach delayed the congressional proceedings for several hours, and it was not until the early morning of January 7th that the 2020 presidential election results were certified, naming Joseph R. Biden as the soon-to-be 46th president. And I'm sure, as you well know, after the riot, hundreds of people who breached the Capitol were convicted and imprisoned, and the government charged Trump with crimes related to challenging the election results and interfering with the sequence set forth in the Constitution for the transfer of power from one president to the next. Now, Trump challenged the indictment on the grounds that his acts were protected by presidential immunity. The district court disagreed, concluding that, quote, the Constitution's text structure and history do not support the existence of such an immunity, and that it would betray the public interest to grant a former president a, quote, categorical exemption from criminal liability for allegedly attempting to usurp the reins of government. The district court also rejected Trump's claims that his indictment was barred by the impeachment judgment clause. Now, Trump appealed the decision, and District Court Judge Chutkan stayed the criminal proceedings pending the outcome of the appeal. The special counsel filed a petition for certiorari requesting that the Supreme Court decide the issue before the D.C. Circuit had a chance to weigh in. The Supreme Court denied the petition, meaning the case would have to proceed through the Circuit Court. Now, after oral arguments, the D.C. Circuit upheld the lower court's ruling that, quote, for the purpose of this criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump with all the defenses of any other criminal defendant. But any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution. And the court summarized, quote, former President Trump claims absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for all official acts undertaken as president, a category he contends that includes all of the conduct alleged in the indictment. So what is executive immunity and where does it come from? Well, you might be surprised to learn that there is no explicit constitutional text granting the president immunity. The framers explicitly created immunity for other officials, but they seemingly left out the presidency. The Constitution's speech and debate clause provides that both senators and representatives shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same and for any speech or debate in either house. Now, law professor Sai Krishna Prakash, an expert on presidential power, says the framers wanted to ensure that no one tried to obstruct congressional meetings by arresting members of Congress. They also gave members of Congress immunity from civil lawsuits for what they say on the floor. At the Constitutional Convention, James Madison raised the issue of giving the president similar immunities and privileges, but no one wanted to talk about it, so they didn't debate it at all.
Welcome to my in-weary traveler. What can I do for you?
President's broad immunities. However, the judiciary eventually invented the concept of executive immunity. Executive immunity is a doctrine that shields presidents from most civil lawsuits, including conduct that occurred during their presidential terms. In Nixon versus Fitzgerald, the Supreme Court ruled that the president is entitled to absolute immunity from legal liability for civil damages based on their official acts, including acts on the outer perimeter of their duties. The court defined the president's official duties quite broadly to prevent future presidents from being sued for, quote, virtually any allegation that an action was unlawful or was taken for a forbidden purpose. And we explored the contours of civil immunity in my video about Smith's petition to the Supreme Court. Now, Trump's lawyers didn't do a great job on this appeal. He really would have benefited from a good lawyer during this whole process. But if you want a great lawyer, my firm, the Eagle Team, can help. If you've suffered a data breach, especially if you got one of those data breach lawyers, were involved in a car crash, or have dealt with sexual harassment from the Trump family or anyone else, we can represent you or help find you the right attorney who can. It's so important to talk to a lawyer right away so you can get the best representation and find out what your options are. So just click on the link in the description for a free consultation with my team. Because you're interested in the legal team, you need the Eagle Team. Click on the link below. Now, Nixon versus Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I would say the Trump family now is basically like the world's Osbournes. You know, the MTV generation had the Osbournes, but I think the world's got the Trumps now. Which is why they want them to win so much, and it's why we can't get rid of them. And it's just kind of funny. It's like the world's Osbournes, and they love this shit. They don't want it to go away. It's the world's joke. It's what everybody talks about at the water cooler. They don't want it to end.
Gave the president freedom to exercise their official duties without being exposed to litigation for civil
What would
damages.
they talk about without Trump? It's kind of funny. What would they talk about? There'd be nobody to hate. I mean, what would they talk about if Trump wasn't there? They'd be like, oh, it kind of sucks, you know? Like, there's nothing going on, you know? Yeah, there's nothing going on unless Trump's, like, making some big fucking target for you, you know? I hate to say it, but, I mean, that's how I feel. I'm sure that's how he feels.
Which could be initiated by...
And I have no sympathy for the fucking man. He wanted this. He signed up for it. He chased it. What did he think it was going to be? But I also think that it's, I mean, when you don't, it's kind of like Nixon, that old joke on the Futurama about Nixon. Who do you think, I mean, it's like, you know, what are you going to do when you don't have me to kick around anymore? You know, and that's kind of what I think about Trump. It's like, without the world's joke, what are we going to laugh at? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you guys have been attacking Trump for 10 years or something now. It's been so long, or whatever it's been. It's been like 8 years now.
United States, but it did not give the president freedom to break criminal laws.
Surprise, surprise.
That issue was not before the court in Nixon or in subsequent cases, so it's still an open question. As the D.C. Circuit noted, quote, the question of whether a former president enjoys absolute immunity from federal criminal liability is one of first impression.
Just browsing my wares, or is there something
so there's
specific
no
I
binding
can help
authority
you
on
find
whether
today?
the president can
Browsing
go on a crime
wares.
spree because our presidents haven't claimed the right to do that until Donald Trump. And on appeal, Trump argued that he had immunity on 3 grounds. Quote, 1, Article 3 courts lack the power to review the president's official acts under the separation of powers doctrine. 2, functional policy considerations rooted in separation of powers require immunity to avoid intruding on executive branch functions. And 3, the impeachment judgment clause does not permit the criminal prosecution of a former president in the absence of Congress impeaching and convicting him. So Trump first argued that the judiciary has no power to rule on matters of executive power. But in Nixon versus Fitzgerald, the Supreme Court ruled that, quote, it is settled law that the separation of powers doctrine does not bar every exercise of jurisdiction over the president of the United States. Trump ignored that and argued that the constitutional structure of separated powers means that, quote, neither a federal nor
I
a
have
state
to
prosecutor
take
nor
stuff
a state or
to
federal court may sit in judgment over a president's official acts, which are vested in the presidency alone. Trump relied on a quote from Marbury versus Madison that a president's official acts, quote, can never be examinable by the courts. Now, the Court of Appeals rejected this interpretation. Quote, former President Trump misreads Marbury and his progeny. Properly understood, the separation of powers doctrine may immunize lawful discretionary acts, but it does not bar the federal criminal prosecution of a former president for every official act. In particular, Marbury versus Madison divided presidential acts into 2 categories: discretionary and ministerial. An act is discretionary if the president is required to exercise his or her judgment or discretion in performing it. An act is ministerial if it is imposed by law and its performance is not dependent on the president's judgment. In Marbury and subsequent cases, the Supreme Court concluded that a judiciary has the power to hear cases where a specific duty is ministerial in that it's assigned by law. The judicial branch is empowered to, quote, review the president's actions when he is bound by law, including by federal criminal statutes. And although, quote, objection may be made that Marbury and his progeny exercise jurisdiction only over subordinate officers, not the president himself, these principles apply to presidents, and the appeals court quoted the Supreme Court's decision in a case involving the widow of Robert E. Lee, where it concluded that officers of the government could be sued despite the Constitution's prohibition on lawsuits against the federal government. The court said, quote, "No man in this country is so high that he is above the law. No officer of the law may set that law at defiance with impunity. All officers of the government, from the highest to the lowest, are creatures of the law and are bound to obey it." And if you're paying attention, yes, it does look like the DC Circuit is lending credibility to the idea that the president is an officer for the purposes of the Insurrection Clause of the 14th Amendment. We'll see if that makes a difference. When Chief Justice Marshall presided over Aaron Burr's treason trial, he ruled that a subpoena could be directed to President Jefferson over Jefferson's objections. The Supreme Court ruled that President Truman's executive order seizing control of most of America's steel mills exceeded his constitutional authority. Truman acted to settle a labor dispute after Congress rejected his request to authorize that action.
First, I'm directing the Secretary of Commerce to take possession of the steel mills and to keep them operating.
But he had to abide by federal law regardless of whether he agreed with it. The court ruled that President Nixon had to comply with a subpoena from the Watergate special prosecutor, and it ruled that President Clinton could be sued for sexual harassment. And the Supreme Court ruled that President Trump had to respond to a state criminal subpoena from the New York County District Attorney's Office. So the court rejected the separation of powers argument and held that it had a right to decide this case because, quote, "The indictment charges that former President Trump violated criminal laws of general applicability. Former President Trump lacked any lawful discretionary authority to defy federal criminal law, and he is answerable in court for his conduct." And the Court of Appeals next considered Trump's argument that criminal liability for presidential action would have a chilling effect on the president's ability to act, quote, "fearlessly and impartially" in the performance of his duties. Trump explained this argument in a Truth Social post. "Without immunity, it would be very hard for a president to enjoy his or her golden years of retirement." Now, the same issue arose in United States versus Nixon when President Nixon argued that if he had to turn over his secret recordings and documents, it would discourage presidential advisors from speaking with candor. Although, quote, "the interest in preserving confidentiality is weighty indeed and entitled to great respect," the court held that, quote, "we cannot conclude that advisors will be moved to temper the candor of their remarks by the infrequent occasions of disclosure because of the possibility that such conversations will be called for in the context of a criminal prosecution." The appeals court also looked to the expectations of past presidents. Quote, "Moreover, past presidents have understood themselves to be subject to impeachment and criminal liability, at least under certain circumstances, so the possibility of chilling executive action is already in effect. Even former President Trump concedes that criminal prosecution of a former president is expressly authorized by the impeachment judgment clause after impeachment and conviction. Trump's concession that he could be prosecuted if he were impeached and convicted by Congress, which we'll get to in a few minutes, seemed to doom his argument that the president would be unable to function if he or she believes that they could one day face criminal sanctions. Presidents already behave as if they could be prosecuted. For example, President Ford issued a full pardon to former President Nixon, quote, which both former presidents evidently believed was necessary to avoid Nixon's post-resignation indictment. President Clinton agreed to a 5-year suspension of his law license and a $25,000 fine, quote, in exchange for independent counsel Robert Ray's agreement not to file criminal charges against him. And most damning of all, on February 9th, 2021, during Trump's impeachment trial for election-related crimes, his lawyer, Bruce Castor, argued that rather than being impeached, Trump could be criminally prosecuted.
After he's out of office, you go and arrest him.
This is one of the reasons why it's important to have a consistent legal theory and argument in all of the proceedings where you might be prosecuted. Now, the court also reasoned that the threat of criminal prosecution could even be a good thing because it could deter possible abuses of power and criminal behavior. But Trump next argued that if presidents do not have broad immunity from the law, they'd be open to politically motivated witch hunts. But the court also noted that Trump isn't the only one with important interests in this case. The public has an interest in the enforcement of criminal laws, and so does the executive branch. Quote, the president has a constitutionally mandated duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. As part of this duty, the president is responsible for investigating and prosecuting criminal violations. It would be a striking paradox if the president, who alone is vested with the constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, were the sole officer capable of defying those laws with impunity. Though Trump argued that by disputing the results of the 2020 election, he was just doing his duty to take care that the laws were being faithfully executed. But the appeals panel made quick work of that argument, finding that his, quote, alleged conduct conflicts with his constitutional mandate to enforce the laws governing the process of electing the new president. The court said, quote, we cannot accept former President Trump's claim that a president has unbounded authority to commit crimes that would neutralize the most fundamental check on executive power, the recognition and implementation of election results. We cannot accept that the office of the presidency places its former occupants above the law for all time thereafter. So with that decided, the appeals panel turned to Trump's third argument, which is that a president can only be charged with a crime if the House of Representatives impeaches him for the conduct and the Senate convicts him. Now, since the Senate didn't convict Trump in his second impeachment trial, Trump claimed that prosecuting him for January 6th related crimes is double jeopardy. Now, this particular argument caused most legal commentators to either just laugh or just go apoplectic with rage. The oral argument on this issue was explosive. You can just listen to Judge Pan question D. John Sauer.
I understand your position to be that a president is immune from criminal prosecution for any official act that he takes as president, even if that action is taken for an unlawful or unconstitutional purpose. Is that correct?
With an important exception, which is that if the president is impeached and convicted by the United States Senate
Autopilot
in a proceeding that
jumping.
reflects, widespread political consensus, that would authorize the prosecution under the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause. So
Okay.
yes, with that exception.
Now here Sauer tries to avoid a direct answer, instead shifting gears to mention that Bill Clinton
Moving to
allegedly
Stargate.
sold a presidential pardon to
Warp
Mark
drive
Rich but wasn't
active.
prosecuted.
As long as it's an official act. I mean, certain cases, purely private conduct under Clinton against Jones, he'd be subject to prosecution for that as long as he's not in office.
But now Judge Pan just goes for the legal jugular.
What if you
Autopilot
weren't? There would be
engaged.
No criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and
Warping to
and
Stargate.
our constitutional
Warp
provision and the
drive
plain
active.
language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted
All right,
first.
I'll
And
help
so
you,
your answer
but
is-
not because I want to, but because I'm obligated.
Yes, there's a political
And
process
let's
that
get
would
one
have to
thing
occur
straight.
under the
You're
structure of our
knowing far more than you should to
D.
begin
John Sauer
with.
told Judge Pan
Let's
that
keep
Trump
this our
couldn't be
little
prosecuted
secret,
if he
and
ordered
don't go
SEAL Team 6
blabbing
to
at
kill
any
him.
taverns about anything you find out. Understand? Take this here note to Elling Trias. Don't say nothing else to him. Just be polite and wait for him to respond, and don't worry, he will. I'm gonna only impress this on you once more,
Approaching
adventurer.
Stargate.
Treat this matter
Approaching
seriously and
Stargate.
keep your yapper shut. You can find Trias at his cheese shop, Trias Cheese, in the Trade District. Good luck.
Impeached and convicted him first. The implications of this are pretty stunning. Now, Sauer imagines that if this happened, our crack Congress would speedily impeach so that a criminal trial could happen. But you'd think that Congress would be a little gun-shy, no pun intended, about starting an
I'm
impeachment proceeding
sorry.
against a
A
president
letter
who
for
just
me.
ordered the
Well,
military to
I'll be
kill his
not
opponent.
often.
Even assuming
You get
that
a
members
delivery
of
that's
their
not
own
a
party
crate or
would
barrel
be
when
willing
all
to
you
do
do
this.
is work.
You'd think
Let's
that
see
this
what this
type
is
of
about.
president
You
would
look
be
a little
willing to
tense.
take
You
out
okay,
members-
adventurer? Jorgen, you old son of a... So that's how it's going to be, huh? All right, I can deal with that. I hope he finds the twisting nether that much sooner. Here's what's going to happen, adventurer. I'll start using my contacts here, but you're doing most of the footwork, so I save some coin. Head to Darkshire and Duskwood and find
Autopilot
Watcher
jumping.
Bacchus. He usually patrols the North Road right outside of town. Just tell him you're looking into any
Autopilot
Defias
jumping.
activity for me, and he'll help you out with any information he can.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
These great beasts know paths that you can't find on foot. They'll get you there fast and maybe show you something new at the same time. Be careful.
Dared to write articles of impeachment. Now, it's hard to imagine a state of affairs that would be more chilling to the impeachment function than the notion that a president could give assassination orders of their political rivals. So Sauer argued that if the president ordered a hit on his political
Approaching
rival,
Stargate.
Congress would have to give law enforcement the green light to prosecute. But this would give all presidents, including current President Biden, the right to order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate political rivals as long as they could convince enough senators to
Approaching
acquit. Now, Sauer
Stargate.
could have told the judge that ordering an assassination would obviously be prosecutable regardless of what Congress thought. But since Trump made the argument that criminal liability was restricted only by the impeachment clause, Sauer was pretty boxed in. So the panel looked at the text of the impeachment judgment clause and concluded the following, quote, "The impeachment judgment clause is focused solely on those who are convicted by the Senate following impeachment by the House. The first part of the clause limits the penalties that can be imposed based on an impeachment conviction. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office, disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. The second part makes clear that the limited consequences of the impeachment do not immunize convicted officers from criminal prosecution. The party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. In former President Trump's view, however, the word convicted in the second phrase implicitly bestows immunity on presidents who are not convicted based on a negative implication. The impeachment judgment clause presupposes that a president is not criminally liable absent a conviction in the Senate. Other courts have rejected this tortured interpretation of the impeachment judgment clause. And the court says that this interpretation runs counter to the text.
Warping to Stargate.
Its reliance on a negative implication is an immediate red flag. The framers knew how to explicitly grant criminal immunity in the Constitution, as they did to legislators in the speech or debate clause. The court continued that, quote, the impeachment judgment clause merely states that the party convicted shall nevertheless be subject to criminal prosecution. The text says nothing about non-convicted officials. Former President Trump's reading rests on a logical fallacy, stating that if the president is convicted, he can be prosecuted, does not necessarily mean that if the president is not convicted, he cannot be prosecuted. And on the subject of the framers' intent, the court concluded that the framers actually wanted to make sure that a subsequent conviction would not be barred by a president's
approaching Stargate.
The court also noted the clause applies not just to presidents, but also to vice president and all civil officers of the United States. And Trump's reading would prohibit the executive branch from prosecuting all sorts of officers for crimes they committed in office, unless Congress impeached and convicted them. This would turn Congress into a kind of criminal court. And finally, Trump argued alternatively that double jeopardy principles prevented him from being criminally prosecuted for January 6 related crimes. But as any law student knows, the double jeopardy clause, quote, guards only against imposition of multiple criminal punishments for the same offense. Although double jeopardy applies only to criminal punishments, impeachment imposes political punishments. Double jeopardy is the right not
Don't
to be
come
put
out of the
in jeopardy
shadows like that.
limb. And it's even
Next time,
narrower
give a
than
girl
that
some
sounds,
warning.
because jeopardy only attaches when someone is being prosecuted basically for the exact same charge. Now, Congress can't imprison someone for a crime. It can only boot them out of office. This means that subjecting Trump to possible criminal penalties like fines and imprisonment cannot be double jeopardy. So the question is, what happens next? The circuit court's decision was by a three-judge panel. Trump can appeal to the entire D.C. circuit, what's called en banc, where the case would be decided by all the judges on the court. Now, the full panel will probably not be overturning this decision.
The magic within his heart will be proof against the embalmer's evil and a powerful aegis over the town of Darkshire. You have done a great thing for our people, adventurer. Your name will remain in our annals forever.
Annals forever?
Says that even if Trump wants to appeal en banc, which he's entitled to, that will not delay any further proceedings. The D.C. Circuit will issue its mandate on February 12th, granting the special counsel's request for a fast turnaround for a potential appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, that's a win for Jack Smith, who cut the time from 30 days down to 6. And according to the order, the case will return to Judge Chutkan on that date unless Trump has appealed to the Supreme Court, which of course he definitely will. Now, in terms of the appeal to the Supreme Court, it only takes 4 justices out of the 9 to grant cert so that the Supreme Court will take it up. But it takes 5 justices to decide to implement a stay while that appeal is pending. And now that we have the benefit of the D.C. Circuit's opinion, which is one step below the Supreme Court, and it's about as thorough and bulletproof an opinion as you could want, maybe the Supreme Court justices will say that they got it right and there's no need for them to grant cert. On the other hand, even if there are 5 justices who agree with every word of the D.C. Circuit, they might feel that it's so important that they need to take up this case so that they can have the final word and put their stamp of approval on the D.C. Circuit's opinion. Now, what's interesting is that the ruling on immunity has been covered extensively by almost 500 news outlets. 32% of the reporting comes from the left and 23% is coming from the right. And if you compare the headlines, you start to see something interesting emerging. Now, on the left, you have outlets using the words like shredded and calling the court's opinion scathing, while on the right, news outlets usually stick to is not immune. These word changes are subtle, but they play a big role in how readers perceive the story. The first set of words might provide a sense of catharsis for liberal readers who want to see Trump crash and burn, while the second set of words provides a deliberately unadorned account of the opinion, downplaying it. Now, this is all possible thanks to today's sponsor, Ground News, a website and app developed by a former NASA
Welcome
engineer
to my
on a mission to
in-weary
give readers
traveler.
an
What
easy,
can I do for
data-driven,
you?
objective way to
No,
read
I'm
news.
not.
Every
But
story
lots of
comes with a
others
quick
are looking
visual
for
breakdown
love.
of the political
You
bias,
should buy my love
factuality,
tokens, put on
ownership,
some cologne or
reporting,
perfume,
all
and then
backed
pass
by
them
ratings from
around.
3 independent
If you
news
put on
monitoring
cologne or
organizations.
perfume,
I especially
then
like
you'll
the
see
Ground
who
News
is
comparison
amorous.
feature, which highlights
Those are the
specific
ones who
differences
accept
between
love
left and right
tokens
reporting.
and
It's
offer
important
a
as we head into
gift
the
in
election season,
return.
because we need
But
to
remember,
separate
to
the
give
facts.
someone a love
So, for
token, you
example, when a
have
neighbor
to
says
smell
that
just
one-third
right.
Americans think that Biden's
Men
election
like
was
the
legitimate.
scent of
We look at
perfume,
the story up in the
while
Ground News
women
blind
prefer
spot feed and see that
cologne.
he's talking about a poll back in
Welcome to
December,
my in-weary
mostly covered by
traveler. What
right-leaning
can I do
news
for you?
sources, and all of a sudden you have a common ground to base your conversation in. You can actually engage with the facts like who conducted the poll and the sample size. When we all have access to the same information, it's easier to bridge the gap with people on either side of the spectrum, even if you don't agree with them. And all this is so important so we don't live in an echo chamber or get misled by subtle and sometimes not so subtle language in the news. Ground News is a fantastic tool for sifting through daily misinformation and bias. They provide all the tools you need to be a critical thinker, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. And what's great is that right now they're offering 40% off their Vantage subscription. This subscription includes unlimited access to all Ground News features, and with the sale, the subscription is less than $5 a month. Or you can start with their Pro plan, which is less than $1. Now, you can only access this discount through my link, so click on the link that's on screen right now or down below, and you'll get 40% off of Ground News and support an independent news platform working to make the media landscape more transparent. So click below. And after that, click on this link over here for more Legal Eagle, or I'll see you in court.
From the most trusted journalists at Comedy Central.
Nope. Comedy Central.
Autopilot jumping. Docking request accepted. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive disabled. Waypoint reached.
Thank you, The Geek Factor. I'd like to sub to your channel. This is called Why Minecraft 1.21 is the tipping point for many fans. Now, I don't know why, but oh no, I fucked this up. Oops. Yeah, I did the wrong one. Oops. Okay, so I'm trying to open a YouTube. Oh, here's a new lazy peon called Every Upcoming MMORPG in 2024 and Beyond.
It's the start of a new year, so as usual, here's my obligatory upcoming MMOs video where I talk about all the games that could release in 2024, but realistically will be perpetually pushed back until all the hype for the game has been bled dry. Whilst 2023 was a decent year for new MMORPG announcements, we didn't exactly have a whole lot of releases. Surely 2024 will be better, right? Keep in mind some of the games mentioned in this video will never actually come out, and the ones that do will likely disappoint you, so keep your expectations low and your hopes high as we go through the list. As per usual, the list is organised in order of the MMOs that I'm the most optimistic about to the ones I'm least optimistic about.
Feel free to
first,
fight
today's
whatever
sponsor,
monstrosities come at you from the darkness. I'm sure you'll be able to handle it pretty easily if you're the type to be hanging around with the likes of him. So, what does my friend need of me on such a gloomy day as this?
Defia's activity? Well, there's always some activity. Even if they keep to themselves, we consider them a threat. But now that I think about it, there was a recent sighting that seemed odd. It must have been a couple weeks ago, but some of their agents had gathered around Adel's stead. From the report, I'd guessed something big went down. Why don't you check there first, and bring me back anything you find? The farmstead is south of the road from Westfall, just as you enter Duskwood.
Approaching Stargate.
Fairly sure Sentinel Hill's closer. Yeah.
Where would you like to fly to?
Your favourite superheroes and supervillains in an epic battle to save the universe from the clutches of evil. In Marvel Strike Force, you assemble a dream team of iconic characters from across the multiverse. Whether you're a fan of Iron Man, Wolverine, Venom or more, you'll find your favourites in this game.
I'm not.
If you're a new player, you can unlock up to 17 total characters within the first 30 days, including Spider-Man, Deadpool, Thor, Captain America and many more favourites.
Deadpool.
Power up your squad to take on missions, unlock gear, and conquer PvP modes like Alliance War and Real-Time Arena. But the excitement doesn't stop there. New characters are constantly joining the fray, including the recently unveiled Hive Mind team. Keep an eye out for the symbiote versions of Silver Surfer and Ghost Spider, perfect for pairing with Venom and Carnage for maximum synergy. Plus, don't miss out on February's month-long event featuring the debut of the formidable Red Goblin. Don't miss out on the action, download Marvel Strike Force now using my link in the description, and you'll unlock exclusive characters for free by logging in. Moreover, for a limited time, redeem promo code VENOMGIFT to unlock 100 Venom Shards, 500 Power Cores, and 5 Premium Orbs for free. So what are you waiting for? Install the game today and unleash the hero within. Ashes of Creation. In 2023, Ashes has made amazing progress and over the past few months of development update live streams has shown multiple core systems working. From the caravan system to crafting, player housing, world boss fights, the event system, and most recently a big improvement to the game's combat with the new Ranger class gameplay update. Ashes is a sandpark MMO catering to both PvP and PvE players and has a lot of people hyped for it, including myself, due to its fair business model, going with the good old sub-fee no box cost and cosmetic only cash shop approach with zero pay to win. Overall, Ashes stands out as one of the most ambitious MMORPGs on the horizon, with Alpha 2 confirmed for Q3 2024. As for a full release date, I'd have to speculate late 2025 or even 2026, but it's really hard to tell. For those of you keen on keeping up with Ashes of Creation's progress, then check out my Ashes of Creation coverage playlist, in which I recap all of the game's development update live streams in a concise format. PAX Day is an upcoming social sandbox MMORPG set in a vast fantasy world inspired by medieval legends. Embracing a cloud-native MMO concept, the game allows players to seamlessly play on any screen or device. In terms of gameplay, the thing that sticks out for me the most with PAX Day is its player-created settlements. The building in this game looks absolutely insane and is likely to be best in genre in this aspect. PAX Day basically seems like it'll be a medieval EVE Online, with a big focus on resource gathering, crafting, exploration, and a mix of both PvP and PvE. The recent alpha demonstrated promising progress. Unfortunately, I didn't get invited to the playtest, hence why I didn't cover it on my channel when every other content creator did. Early access for PAX Day is confirmed for spring 2024, with no date for the full release yet. The Riot MMO.
Look, even Lazy Peon can't get in some of their betas, and he has 1 million subs. Like, it's just crazy. Their bullshit with betas is disgusting. It's morally based. Well, whatever this is, it's not there now. Moonbrook Schoolhouse. It's not on the outside, is it?
Approaching Stargate.
It's not on the outside, no. Travel to the Moonbrook Schoolhouse. I guess I'll have to Google this. It's so annoying that they make you do this all the time. I hate this stupid shit. Yeah, I'm on, like, I don't know. Which one am I on? Who the fuck knows? No, this is the right one.
Autopilot jumping.
It's inside the last room of the schoolhouse. Yes, but what does it... It's a box on the floor in the back of the room. I thought I got this. Yeah, didn't I?
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
I don't know. I don't know what any of this is. I hate their quest system. I always did. It's like, who cares about this inane crap? God damn it. Yeah, it's... I'm in the wrong building and the map is giving me a bad reading, I think.
Approaching Stargate.
There it is. Oh, damn, it's so annoying.
Autopilot jumping.
Did you kill my tiger, or I just lost it, yeah?
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Contrary to what the clickbait titles flooding YouTube would have you believe, we still have almost no information available about the upcoming Riot MMO. The main reason there's so much hype behind this game is due to Riot Games' amazing track record of having every game they've released turn out to be very successful, as well as appeal to a broad audience. With their resources and knack for making high-quality, polished games, I think it's fair to say that the Riot MMO has the potential to be one of the biggest MMORPGs since World of Warcraft, possibly setting new standards for what it means to be an MMORPG in this day and age, where the genre is mostly filled by nostalgic, enfranchised players. The only news we had this year was that Ghostcrawler, the executive producer of the game, left the company earlier in the year because of personal matters, and started a new MMORPG studio, which brings us on to the next game. After leaving Riot Games, Ghostcrawler created Fantastic Pixel Castle Studio and started the development of a game with the codename Ghost, after receiving a sizable investment from NetEase. The game is still in the very early stages of development, but according to Ghostcrawler, they want to bring back central pillars of the MMO experience, such as playing with friends and building a community, as MMOs have moved too far towards solo adventuring. One of the peculiarities of Ghost will be its shards system, where the player will alternate between private realms, called blue shards, which will have a similar experience to games such as V Rising, and public red shards, which will have a more traditional MMORPG experience. Work on Ghost has just started, but Ghostcrawler mentioned in an interview with Canon that the development of the game is moving really fast, and that he doesn't want to be working on the game 10 years from now. I'll be real with you, I don't think we'll see this game before 2028, but at least we know where to put all of our cope if Ashes of Creation and the Riot's MMO crash and burn. Chrono Odyssey is a Korean open-world MMORPG made in Unreal Engine 5 that will be available on both PC and console. This game looks absolutely stunning, and the recent gameplay trailer is quite promising. It includes classic fantasy RPG classes such as Archer, Warrior, Berserker, and Mage, but it also introduces guns, hammers, and, as the game's name implies, various time-bending abilities. Chrono Odyssey kinda gives me BDO vibes with its graphics, epic looking combat and giant monsters, but beyond that the details are scarce. The most optimistic expectation would be a release in late 2024, but realistically probably 2025 and beyond. Throne and Liberty recently released in Korea in December 2023 and is scheduled for a 2024 release in the West, published by Amazon Game Studios. Before the official release, the game underwent a significant combat revamp in response to negative feedback from the closed beta tests. The updated version of the game no longer includes autoplay, features a more dynamic combat system, and takes a more traditional approach to MMO features. It's basically like a modern version of Lineage 2. To the surprise of absolutely no one, the game is obviously pay to win, and will likely see a Western release in the first half of 2024 on PC, followed by a console release in the near future on both Xbox and PS5. Check out my latest video if you want to see my first impressions on the game, and what you can expect for the Western release. Path of Exile 2. Not really an MMORPG, but I know all my MMO friends will be playing this game as soon as it comes out. Path of Exile 2 is a free-to-play next-gen ARPG that promises to outdo its very successful prequel, as well as offer a much more in-depth gameplay experience to competitor Diablo 4, which released in 2023. Earlier in the year, Grinding Gear Games released a new gameplay trailer for PoE 2 and an announcement for the first closed beta, which begins June 7th, 2024. Even though this isn't an MMO, definitely keep an eye out for this one, as I'm sure you'll like it. Arcade 2 is not the name for the next fresh start server of Arcade, but the sequel itself to the acclaimed yet controversial MMORPG. Arcade 2 takes a bold new direction from its predecessor by moving away from large-scale faction-based PvP. This shift apparently reflects the Western market's preference for action-packed single-player console games. The primary focus for progression in Arcade 2 will now be on single-player content, while still trying to maintain the core elements that Arcade was known for, such as trading and
it is rather odd the letter never
Cacao
got
Games
delivered.
is apparently looking
Nonetheless,
at Gamescom
I shall
2020.
update the registry. Oh my! Must have missed this the first time. In the registry, right beneath the first address for Stalvin, there's another one listed, only partially scratched out. Looks like he was headed to the Lion's Pride Inn over in Goldshire. Might want to check there, adventurer. As if the neglect for the residents of Duskwood was not bad enough now, the House of Nobles spits in the eye of the Darkshire Council with their decision to imprison Dextrin Ward in Stormwind, rather than behead the villain as per Lord Ebenlock's sentence. Ward was caught selling bodies from the cemetery to Morbid Fell, a crime punishable by death, yet Stormwind claims Ward as their prisoner. Assassinate Ward in the Stormwind Stockade, bring me his hand, and I shall reward you.
I wish those were good. I don't want them on the stocks. Oh, there's a quest in there, is there? Oops.
As if the neglect for the residents of Duskwood was not bad enough now, the House of Nobles spits in the eye of the Darkshire Council.
Alright.
For a gameplay reveal of Arcade 2, so I think we can assume a 2025 release for this one. Regardless, this is another Unreal Engine 5 MMO that I'll personally be very excited in trying out. Perfect New World is a game made in Unity that was announced out of the blue 9 months ago, and seems to be pretty far ahead in its development cycle. Judging from the trailers and various beta footage, Perfect New World has a hybrid combat system with animation lock, features 4 different gender-locked classes, and has a mix of PvP and PvE content. The general feedback I saw from this game's playable tests were somewhat mixed, but the game does look really nice visually, and it's still in development, so there's time to improve. I'd expect a full release for this one sometime in 2024. Corepunk is quite a unique MMORPG as it tries to bridge the gap between MOBA and MMO, with top-down gameplay and fog of war, which serves as a way to incentivize exploration in the open world. Besides the MOBA-like combat system, you still have your classic MMORPG systems like gathering, crafting, quests, randomly generated dungeons, and raids. The game had a beta test fairly recently. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to play it, but next beta test I'll jump in and make a first impressions video. So far, Corepunk is looking highly likely to release sometime in 2024.
Hard nope.
Do you like Warframe but wish it had slower, more deliberate gameplay and was set in a more grounded fantasy world? Well, good news, Soulframe is being developed by Digital Extremes and will be a parallel game to Warframe, offering similar gameplay features but with a different aesthetic and theme. There's no date for this one, but the devs are releasing development updates, and it seems like a release date is slated for late 2024. With its crowdfunding of over $500 million, Star Citizen is the most ambitious game ever, and whilst after a decade in development we still have no full release date, we did finally get an incredible gameplay trailer for Squadron 42, the single-player campaign version of Star Citizen earlier in 2023. Star Citizen has been playable in a testing state for a few years, and does have a dedicated community, some of which make epic videos about all of the latest updates. For many though, the game has been in development for so long that they've just tuned out. One thing's for certain though, if Star Citizen ever does release, it will probably be the best sci-fi MMO ever created. As for an estimated release date, I have no idea.
EVE Online is
Terrace Land is a
much
cross-platform PC mobile MMORPG made by Tencent.
Nope.
And that's usually where I would lose interest immediately. But after looking into this game, I think it could actually be a very interesting project, although towards the end of 2023 it did have a bit of controversy.
This will work perfectly.
From the get-go, the game assured
Now there is
players
just
that
one
it would
more
be
item needed to complete this device. COG's blueprint calls for a lens of some sort. The only lens I know of that would be large enough will be very difficult to acquire. There is an ogre by the name of Zarkvul, who resides in the mound in southern Duskwood. If you can, bring to me his monocle, and I will use that as our lens.
a zero pay-to-win MMO, but during the CBT it had a number of systems where players could basically buy power in a similar way to games like Lost Ark and World of Warcraft. Weirdly, the devs also removed mentions of non-pay-to-win from their marketing and description of the game during this time. However, since then, following backlash from the player base, they've now seemingly gone back to their non-pay-to-win vision, stating in a recent dev update that the pay-to-win stuff wouldn't be a thing for the full release, it was just for the CBT. Make of that what you will. Aside from that, the game will have a seamless open world and a traditional tab target combat system, as well as being accessible on a global server for both PC and mobile platforms. On top of that, the devs recently removed the game's gender lock after receiving feedback from a closed beta, which I think is very unusual for Eastern devs, but will likely be appreciated by most players. As for features, it looks like they're going for a classic-themed WoW-inspired MMO with raids, multiple classes and builds, and a vast open world. As for the release date, Terrace Land will launch in Q1 2024. The Quinfall is an upcoming MMORPG that makes the ambitious claim to bring us the largest open world we have ever seen. In Quinfall, your class will be decided by the combination of weapons you equip. You'll be able to have your own shop in the world, play mini-games and board games in taverns with other players, explore secret dungeons filled with puzzles, gather, craft, fish, and pretty much do everything your heart desires. This is a big promise, and it's possible that Quinfall is attempting too much, which doesn't always turn out too well. The game's release was set to be on January 20th, 2024 according to their Steam page, but the sneaky devs changed it very recently to coming soon, instead launching a closed beta test on January 30th instead. I've not had the chance to play the beta personally, and I'm extremely skeptical that this dev team has managed to pull off such an ambitious project in such a short space of time, but based on some of the footage I've seen of the game on YouTube, the Quinfall does seem to be somewhat playable, so it's already surpassed my expectations because I genuinely thought it was a scam. Whether it's a good game or not, I'll let you know in a first impressions video soon when I get to play it. Blue Protocol is an upcoming free-to-play anime MMORPG that was released this year in Japan and is set to release in the West in 2024, published by AGS. The game had a bit of a bumpy release in Japan, but I can see that the game could be fairly successful in the West, as the game will be somewhat similar to Genshin but with more MMO elements. As for an actual Western release date, I think we could expect Q3 2024, perhaps with some beta tests before that. Dune Awakening is an open-world survival MMO set in the Dune universe and developed by Funcom, the creators of Conan Exiles. Like many survival games, Dune Awakening will include elements such as gathering, exploring, and hunting. However, it places extra emphasis on the social interaction among players in a persistent world. The game recently announced the first beta tests, and you can sign up for it on the official website. The devs mentioned that the game is at a stage where player feedback would be valuable. I anticipate a release in 2024 for this one, potentially around Q4. Project LLL represents NCSoft's venture into third-person MMO shooters, unfolding in an alternate reality Seoul intricately recreated as a 3D map, drawing inspiration from Philip K. Dick's novels. The game offers a fully explorable open world, dynamic events, and the inclusion of mechs. Development appears to be well underway, with a probable release in 2024 on both PC and console. Profane presents itself as an authentic player-driven sandbox MMO set in a traditional fantasy environment. You can explore a dynamic world that responds to your actions, engage in open-world PvP, construct houses, and experience skill-based action combat. Profane had multiple tests in 2023 and presented a playable version of the game at this year's Brazil game show. Based on the progress shown so far, I think the game will be released in either late 2024 or 2025. Past Fate is a Viking-themed open-world indie MMORPG where players can choose from 5 distinct classes: Warrior, Necromancer, Mage, Pirate, and Priest. The game has fairly nice graphics and adopts a Souls-style action combat system. It features a crafting and gathering system, quests, and various monsters such as zombies, demons, and giants, and has been receiving small but steady improvements, with it likely to enter early access on Steam in 2024. Doki V is a creature-collecting open-world MMO developed and published by Pearl Abyss. This game was initially revealed in 2019, and the development has been somewhat quiet since 2021, where we got a pretty exciting gameplay trailer. This game is supposed to bridge the gap between young and old MMO players, and has a much more casual tone when compared to other games from Pearl Abyss. The release date for Doki V hasn't been announced yet, but seeing how Crimson Desert was pushed to 2025, I wouldn't hold my breath for this one. Maybe late 2024 if we're lucky, otherwise this is a 2025 or beyond release. Plan 8. Similar to Project LLL, Plan 8 is an MMO shooter made by Pearl Abyss. This game was announced in 2019 and PA has been radio silent ever since. Considering Crimson Desert was delayed for 5 years and tuned down from an MMORPG to a single-player game, I can't promise you that this game will ever come out, and if it does, it might be a rhythm game for all we know, so don't expect this before 2026. Eternal Tombs, formerly called War of Dragnaroks, Eternal Tombs is an indie MMORPG that recently went through some major changes. After transitioning to Unreal Engine 5, the game will now be run by live staff, called Tomb Masters, who will shape the experience of players by running events and changing the in-game world. Eternal Tombs will allow you to run your own shop, craft unique items, partake in castle sieges, and much more. The game will also not have a cash shop, and promises that all items will have to be earned through gameplay. Eternal Tombs has some really unique ideas, and I'm interested to see if an MMO run by GMs can actually work. That being said, I don't think we'll get to play it before 2025. Ashfall is a post-apocalyptic MMORPG shooter developed by Legendary Star Studio, and will offer 9 distinct shooting styles that come from a mix of your abilities and weapons. The expansive world in this game spans over 200 kilometers, featuring diverse environments such as small camps, toxic wastelands, and sprawling cities. The release date for this game is confirmed for Q3 2024, although personally I don't think this game looks very good. Into the Echo is an Unreal Engine 5 MMORPG that describes itself as a massively multiplayer time travel tale. The game aims to break free from traditional MMORPG conventions like linear progression or levels. Apparently the game strives to create an inclusive environment where everyone can play together and have a meaningful impact, regardless of the hours they've invested. Whilst this game might not cater to hardcore players, it's likely to appeal to a more casual audience, especially those looking for a game to enjoy with their partner. There's no gameplay out for this one yet though, so I'm assuming this is a 2025 or beyond release. Pioneers of New Dawn. Details about this MMO are still scarce, but it appears to prioritise building and sustaining persistent settlements in a challenging environment. With its abundance of natural themes and survival elements, the game sets itself apart from your typical MMO, potentially filling a unique niche in the market. Since there's no trailer or footage available yet, I believe this to be another one to add to the 2025 or beyond release list. Playable Worlds is, unlike its name would have you believe, not playable. In fact, it's in the very early stages of development. There's almost no information about this game yet, but it's being developed by Ralph Costa, the lead designer and director of games like Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxies, so we can only expect great things from this one. Plainly speaking, there's not much to talk about with Playable Worlds yet, and it will likely be unplayable until the end of the decade. City of Titans. If you were a fan of the now closed City of Heroes, you might want to check out City of Titans, an Unreal Engine 5 MMORPG that brands itself as the spiritual successor to City of Heroes. This indie Kickstarter project has raised $800,000, and after a period of limited communication, the studio has finally unveiled a playable version of the game, exclusive to backers, featuring some basic features. The potential release is expected in 2025. Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen. If we travelled back in time 20 years and I showed someone the latest footage released for this game, they'd still say it looks outdated. But don't worry, if you're in your 20s you might not live long enough to see the release of this game. And if you was ever excited for Pantheon in the past, odds are the recent graphics overhaul and baffling decision to make an EverQuest successor have a children's game art style has likely killed all your hype. I personally do not believe Pantheon will ever release. Wow. Camelot Unchained has been a hot mess for quite some time now, and it's honestly a shame to even include it in an upcoming MMORPG list video. At this point it's become very clear that this game will never be released, and the studio behind it is just working on an engine to sell to other developers. What's mind-blowing is that even after being in development for more than a decade, and still figuring out the very basics of the game, the studio has recently received an additional $15 million in funding from investors. Unbelievable. But that's it for this video. As I said, I think 2023 was a great year for new MMO announcements, and I'm excited for the new wave of upcoming Unreal 5 games that will hopefully bring a breath of fresh air into the genre.
Engaged.
Which MMOs are you most looking forward to on this list? Which ones do you believe will not make it to a full release? Let me know in the comments below, and also help us out with a like for the algorithm gods, and to pray that 2024 gives us some much needed new MMO dopamine spikes. Social media on screen, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Warping to
Hello
Stargate.
guys and gals,
Warp
me
drive
and Horror, and
active.
today we're gonna
Thank you so much, some ordinary gamers, for the excellent content for my stream. I'd like to sub to your channel.
Talk about the biggest implosion in a VTuber group. Now you might be wondering, whoa, Muda, why are you talking about VTubers like that? The closest affiliation you have is with your co-host Noxtaku on the Some Ordinary podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, to be real with you, this is such a big implosion that it actually goes beyond VTuber circles. I'm looking at it from a really, really terrible business perspective. This is quite possibly how not to manage PR
Approaching
for a massive multi-billion-dollar industry. So to give you an idea, what is a VTuber, okay? You probably heard this term a few too many times, but to give you a quick idea, basically a regular YouTuber like me shows my face on camera all day, every day. But a VTuber is a YouTuber that is priding themselves on their anonymity. They've got lore, they've got backstory, and most importantly, they're 2D/3D representations of virtual characters. You too can be a VTuber today if you use popular face rigging software and just basically, you know, you represent yourself with a 2D animated character sprite. Now, ladies and gentlemen, VTubers are revenuing in the billions. This is a massive industry, one that spawned off of Japan's massive idol culture trend. To give you an idea, there are some key massive VTuber VTuber organizations. One of them being Yeihua Entertainment, one of them being Kizuna AI, an actual group that I know from all the way back in the PUBG days. This is my first introduction to actual VTubers, okay? This isn't a VTuber that I actually watched because I was interested in the concept of somebody basically role-playing a virtual character working in the real world. You've got Hololive Production, Good Smile, and of course, the culprit of today, Niji Sanji, which is an organization, a group that is slowly imploding into fucking nothing off of what is some really bad alleged practices in their organization, which we'll be getting to. Now, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor. Please check on your mental health. Some of the actual things we're talking about today involve really serious topics like bullying. In fact, in some situations, some of the people we'll be looking at over here have actually been hospitalized over what are some serious mentally draining situations. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever feel like you're going through something serious and you need somebody to talk to, there are free resources available. And if you ever feel like things get too much for you, please step back and ultimately try to focus on your mental health. It's as important as your physical health, and if you deny its
I've been taking care of my mental health,
ultimately really, really bad.
I've been screaming a lot less. I've just been not stressing my body. I've been exercising but not pushing it. I've been eating good food, only drinking purified water. Hash is like the only fucking like bad thing that I do. You know, I'm good with my family. I talk to my friends, but I don't really hang out with them or spend time with them. And I've been taking care of my mental health like, quite a lot. I've been just trying to take care of it. Like, I sleep very, very solid, like, you know, 9 to 11 hours every day, I would say. And that was something I didn't do my entire fucking life till I was like 30, 38 something. I just didn't do that. I didn't even do it when I was in the madhouse. I just didn't do it, you know. I didn't have any interest in that.
Approaching Stargate.
These guys give like 100 XP. Okay, now I gotta run all the way the fuck back east again. I mean, at this point, I almost want to just fly. I think I'll probably fly.
Things end up spawning out of this. But again, to tell you why I'm getting so serious about it, you have to take the story all the way back to May 2023. The person we're talking about today is somebody known as Selen Tatsuki, also known as Doki Bird. But for now, we're going to keep this to
How many names do we have?
Back in May 2023, she had hosted a contest where she let her fans design her next outfit.
She looks
so
weird.
This is a English VTuber that was basically hosting this contest, And what it actually ended up coming out to was that basically she was the one paying out of pocket and not Niji Sanji. Now, according to this, you can actually see that Selen says negotiated again with management, and the form will be corrected soon. 5 designs will be picked and will be awarded $1,000 each, but only one will become an official outfit. Please note that I'm paying the prize out of my own pocket and not the company. Prayer emoji. I was told no originally and can provide prizes and fought for it for a long time as shown on past streams. So I am glad that I can finally award artists some form of compensation in the end after fighting for so long to even be able to host it. Her plight with her VTube management company Niji Sanji wasn't even an issue where she could basically ask them to front $5 grand, just $5,000 to pay for, again, a prize for artists, which ultimately would have been a net positive for any company's PR. No, she had to fight just to be able to host the event. To clarify, I originally wanted to provide prizes out of my own pocket, but that was denied at first. I always wanted to support artists and have done so throughout my career here in Niji Sanji. So, interestingly enough, she was willing to do this out of her own pocket, but again, to pull teeth to even run a fucking contest is insanity. Now, this is one situation that's been referenced. It's not the only situation. There appears to be a litany of other things, but this is where, like, her relationship with this big VTuber organization was basically, under jeopardy, right? Now, of course, fast forward to late December 2023. Just around Christmas time, which only comes once a year, she uploads a cover of a song known as The Last Cup of Coffee. Now, this song existed on her channel for a little bit before apparently it was taken down and re-uploaded by various people in the community. Now, this song is apparently a song that basically initially was conceived by a YouTuber known as Lily Pichu, but of course she decided to offer some form of cover herself. And it seems as though she actually did end up getting a lot of the permissions from Lily Pichu and people that really were the rights holder of this audio. This is something she just wanted to do. Well, it promptly gets privated shortly after she releases it. And of course, she says, hey, I apologize, but management has privated the song. Please feel free to re-upload since a lot of money and effort was done by so many dragoons. I'm really sad that this happened on Christmas, but I hope somehow you guys will still be able to listen to it in some way. I have never seen talent and their talent agencies having so much public fuck yous being thrown, okay? Like literally when the talent itself, this translates to, guys, I wish I could do something, but my dickbag of a management firm refuses to let me have the slightest bit of freedom. That literally is what it translates to. That level of open disdain is something that just shocks me looking in this organization, especially when these groups are supposed to be a little bit more prim and proper, I would say. So a couple days after the removal of that initial music video, what happened then was her account makes another actual tweet. I apologize for the silence. I've been in the hospital after an accident and will be staying there for a few days to be under supervision. I just got back access to my phone yesterday. Now, of course, obviously people can be a little bit concerned. What was the actual situation over here? And of course, there's some people who decided to start a little conspiracy here. Apostrophe gate is what they called it. So basically when they looked into her account over here, they found out that apparently because of the type of apostrophe being used in this situation, apparently it appeared that maybe management people were speculating that they were the ones to be able to make that, hospitalization tweet and not actually herself. It ended up being debunked. Like, this started off as like a 4chan side investigation, but apparently it was due to the fact that she may have been using different devices, like Apple devices, Android devices, and typically desktop devices will just give you different apostrophes or different font faces, and that typically is the actual example, I guess, that people were looking at. That's how the debunking went. There was also another example, too, where people looked at maybe the fact that she was in the hospital, that instead of even management, the people that they were talking to was actually the emergency contacts, which would have been the parents in the situation. But that's pretty much generally how the situation had went. Anyways, we're getting a bit too ahead of ourselves. So people were a little bit concerned. She disappears out of nowhere and she's gone out of this organization. She's in the hospital, for crying out loud. what was this accident? So now Niji Sanji, January 10th, about a couple weeks later at this point, says, due to unforeseen reasons, we would like to announce that Selen Tatsuki will not be able to participate in any activities at Anime Impulse, Los Angeles 2024 on January 13th and 14th. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience and disappointment caused to fans who have been looking forward to this. We hope that you will still enjoy the performances by other Niji Sanji and livers who are participating in the Niji Sanji block party at Anime Impulse. Anime Impulse will directly contact all Selen Tatsuki fan meet and greet ticket holders in regards to her ticket refunds. So yeah, no shit, people were getting a little bit worried. Obviously a hospital incident, missing your actual like big events, meet and greets, especially in January when these anime conventions typically in Los Angeles are, you know, they do tend to have a pretty big turnout. And again, after
I'm gonna
that
die.
cup of coffee
God
music
damn it, I
video,
got
that
so
incident,
many.
that
I'm just gonna go
problem that
zone.
happened,
Fuck this.
Apparently, according to these fans, not a
I have
single
enough health to
current
maybe
Niji
zone,
and
we'll see.
member has even mentioned her since
I could
that
probably
music
zone.
video issue or the tweet stating she was in or discharged from the hospital, giving a perception as if they're not allowed to. Pomu's graduation was announced and taken place over this time as well. Selen was not able to say goodbye to Pomu on stream in any form or fashion. So yeah, it seems like this person just straight up disappeared, like the earth swallowed them whole. Now, for anybody wondering what a graduation is, a graduation, like I said, VTuber culture originates from Japanese idol culture. And in this situation, the term graduation actually comes from an 80s, you know, idol group back in Japan, the Onyanko Club, where basically, you know, the children, like the people at the time in this group, in this idol group, were actually, you know, people that were supposed to be in high school. So when they were graduating, one of their actual, you know, big members who actually was retiring. That's what a graduation is. Like, you're retiring, at least hopefully on good terms. And when you retire, it's usually because you're too old to be part of a, you know, teen pop idol group. And genuinely, some of these people are probably going to pursue like education. In one case, in the Onyanko Club, one of the actual members was pursuing like dentistry or something, and they left the organization. And the same can apply for VTubers.
No, I'm right at the door.
When their contract runs up, they basically
No, I'm right at the
meaning that
door.
they're
Let me
fucking
zone, let me
thrown
zone, let me
out,
zone.
they're sent out, they move away.
Don't cast
and it is
anything.
what it
Don't
is.
cast
And
anything.
new
Don't
blood
cast anything.
sort of
Don't
jumps
cast
in.
anything. Don't
And
hit me.
again,
Don't
even
cast
other
anything.
people,
No, no,
friends
no,
of
Bio
Selen
2.
had actually
No,
started jumping in,
no.
like RPR.
No,
It's
he
been
killed
over a
me.
month
He
of pure
killed me.
silence, and it's
No,
starting to get
no.
Like at this moment,
I can't
I'm
do
actually
anything.
wondering if
I'm
something
dead.
serious has happened
The
behind the
fucking
scenes,
bio
and this
ended it.
person is straight up
Oh
just
my
went missing.
God.
Like, it's been almost
I'm
a
out
month
of
since
everything.
they've even said a word. So now fast forward to what is about a week
damn it,
ago.
now I'm gonna be
February
break
11th,
even again.
2024. Every single video uploaded on her actual like YouTube channel, Selen Tatsuki, has been privated. It's gone. Like, at this point, they just straight up deleted this person from existence. Everything is gone. No community posts, no nothing. It's like the channel didn't even exist or anything. It's crazy. But of course, Niji Sanji, their world account, posts, notice, termination of Selen Tatsuki's contract with Any Color. Any Color is
Did
the
they
actual
kidnap
parent
this
organization
person,
of the Niji Sanji group, Any Color Incorporation. We hereby announce that we have had to make the difficult decision to terminate our contract with the Niji Sanji and Live, the live YouTuber, if you will, the VTuber, Selen Tatsuki, effective immediately. Due to repeated breaches of contract and misleading statements on social platforms. God damn! Attached
Where are you
is
going?
a detailed explanation
Well, if you're looking
of
to
the
get there
circumstances
quickly,
that led to this
then look no
decision
further.
being taken. Thank you for your understanding, and it's actually fucking beautiful when like community notes have jumped in. Lack of communication with creators in delays in Selen Tatsuki's commission payment to creators. Creators who have been commissioned by Selen have stepped forward denying these claims, even saying that she paid them out of pocket due to management not doing so. Yeah, that's goddamn embarrassing for such a massive organization like this. So here they actually straight up write, with regret, we have to make the difficult decision to terminate our affiliation contract. So of course they reference multiple breaches of misleading statements. So for instance, what they say is, despite our efforts to uphold these rules, Selen Tatsuki has repeatedly violated the activity rules since joining Niji Sanji in July 2021. Selen Tatsuki's actions in violation of the activity rules encompass a wide range of issues, such as non-compliance with rights confirmations and authorization flows. So that music video where like apparently, you know, Lily Pichu apparently had like the rights or whatnot, she even came out and said, no, it's okay. She has the rights. She can do it. I'm giving her the rights holding. They decided that wasn't flying by them, which is fucking insane. So then they said events leading to the actual suspension, right? So what they said over here is on December 26, 2023, Cell and Tatsuki posted a music video without prior approval as required by the activity rules. The materials for the music videos were shared for the first time with our management on December 24th. Since some element of the music video lacked proper authorization, on 25th, we communicated that permission needed to be obtained from relevant parties. Our immediate response was to make the music video private until all authorizations were confirmed from our end. At the same time, the reasoning was clearly explained to Selen. However, Selen took to social media, making misleading statements that omitted essential context. So yeah, this is a situation where I guess she went out of like their activity rules, and they just basically like didn't graduate, or she didn't graduate. She got straight up fucking terminated and fired, straight up deleted, unpersoned, if you will. And this is where I actually have a bit of an issue personally with this organization, because given the serious nature of what, you know, Doki Bird and, you know, the affected party actually went through on a personal level, the personal trauma, this is like classic Japanese PR. It's literally going bullet points over company bureaucratic infractors and just basically saying that they're right. Even with their first point, saying that they had to communicate with rights holders, it's kind of insane that the cover of the song she's covering on, right, like she's like using, the actual rights holder, Lily Pichu, did come out and notify well in advance that, yeah, everything appears to be good. Everything is gravy. So with all of this stuff basically being tossed in, what rule is being broken? There is actually so much conflicting information, and it's hard to assess who is right. But here's the thing: even if Selen is 100% in the wrong and Niji Sanji is 100% in the right, this is a situation where a termination should have been handed out privately, neutrally, so that this kind of situation wouldn't escalate to the point where one party is planning to leave the planet for good. That's how insane this situation is. And, you know, this is where allegations of this company being a black company come out into, where I guess you could say it's like an exploitative sweatshop practice, but we'll get to that in a bit.
At last, the stargazing device is complete. Thank you, adventurer. Now I can continue my research. Or the Alliance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, is Selen, but not Selen as Niji Sanji Selen. This is Doki Bird. They're revived, new name, new persona, freedom. I will not be silenced anymore. On December, I was hospitalized for an attempt that was caused by a built-up of bullying from within and being in a toxic and poor environment for numerous months. That led to my breaking point. I requested to leave first, but on more neutral terms on 26th January. So again, things get really serious over here. Obviously, that kind of a work environment should never be tolerated by anybody. And of course, even the other people, like the designers in this situation, ended up coming out and basically said it felt bad seeing her be terminated. The people that designed her costume even. So in the background, as Niji Sanji was basically unpersoning her from her own built platform, basically, they didn't remove the moderators on a lot of the live streams. So for instance, the moderators over here said, Niji Sanji fucked up. They didn't remove my mod. Please sub to Doki Bird on the stream chat. So what happens is her new account gets gassed up, and Doki Bird went from, I shit you not, having 9,000 something subscribers and gaining like 200,000 in a day. Don't believe me? Look at these crazy metrics. On Sunday, February the 4th, she had 9,023 subscribers. Okay, 9,230. And then, of course, a day later, 216,296.
Well, you're back safe and sound.
She is by
Couldn't
far
ask for much more than that, could you?
Creators
now, let's see what we have here. This looks pretty official as far as any Defias documents I've seen. But it could be a dupe just to throw you off track of whatever it is you're looking for.
You deserve to keep it.
Whoa, this looks way too complex to be something to just lead you astray. I shouldn't even be looking at this stuff. Take it to Trias. He'll be able to make sense of it. And don't let anyone get in your way. This is bigger than me. It might even be bigger than him, but we'll see. And do me a favor, stranger, don't tell anyone I helped you.
If my superiors found out I knew about any of this and didn't share it with them, they'd probably hang me.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
See you around.
And at this point, they start throwing a little bit more fuel into the fire, or rather, a whole bunch of actual, like, big brands. For instance, Studio Nekomata basically comes out and says, hey, listen, we're cutting our ties with any color over this situation, and any stock we have is sold at cost until February. Anything left over is being fucking donated to charity. They're not even really trying to get their money back in this situation. They just want to be cut 100% completely. And of course, it wasn't just like, you know, other VTubers, other people. It was the artists involved too that actually jumped in and started giving her support, actually taking her side in this situation. Now, what's insane about it too is it turned out, it's been alleged by Dokibird that even Niji Sanji, the evil corporation that apparently now that they're painted as, didn't even let the creators keep their achievements. Now, to give you an idea, there's something that we all have as YouTubers. If you're large enough, you have play buttons. When you get up to 100,000 subscribers, you get a silver play button. When you get to 1 million subscribers, you get a gold play button. I think what's more messed up in this situation personally is this organization is more concerned about their actual, well, like their actual financials and I guess their public image versus the fact that one of their biggest creators actually had went through a pretty traumatic experience in their life and had to be hospitalized. They're not really fucking concerned about that, it seems. And it's not just me relaying that, it's also the friends of Dokibird that actually had to jump up into this situation. Like, there's one actual friend here that said, I can only say that Selen, I know from my perspective, is a warm-hearted, serious, and hard-working person. At this time, I personally cannot agree with the company's unilateral statement. After all, corporate VTubers have confidentiality clauses that prohibit them from damaging a company's image and telling the actual situation. So
these great beasts know paths that you can't find on foot. They'll get you there fast and maybe show you something new at the same time.
There are actual non-disparagement clauses, which, you know, usually when you're terminated or fired, even on a good or bad term, whatever, you're not really allowed to detail the nitty-gritty of what happened because the company's public image is obviously very important to them. Any damaging of that public image can cause them serious issues in their stock prices, in their money, in their relationship with other big brands. But that actually ended up happening in this situation, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, if you think this company couldn't get disgusting, to give you an idea, this is an actual, still available post from the company. On February 7th, 2024, Any Color says, the impact of the decision, this is from their financials, okay? To terminate the affiliation.
This is an interesting read. Jorgen and Alldayerrydaybaby were smart to bring me in on this. Seems the Defias have been trying pretty hard to complete this plan of theirs. What's this? Fist? That's a familiar name.
Approaching station.
Now that I think about it, Dashel something. What was his name? Fist. Dashel Stonefist. They call him Fist in some circles. Probably on account that he likes to get in brawls. You can find him in Old Town usually. Right smack dab in the center of it. Go talk to him. If you have to, use a sword or something heavy and blunt to persuade him to open up some. And don't hesitate. If he's in this as deep as these papers suggest, then he's not going to give you any information willingly.
To Stargate. Warp drive active.
Well, I guess I didn't move on it. It's my fault. Damn it. Stole my dark elemental.
Docking request accepted. Autopilot disabled. Waypoint reached.
What?
Approaching
You come into me alley and ask questions about me personal business? Business which you obviously have nothing to do with.
Yeah, you're obviously not the smartest person to come into Stormwind, but you're about to be one of the dumbest to never leave. Have you met me friends?
Autopilot jumping.
What was that? Come on, you dumped all my energy! No, I can't do anything! Switch back! What was that? I was pressing the mouse 4 button. I didn't even have my fucking hand on the keyboard. Piece of shit game. Oh, damn it. What was that, man? You dumped all of my energy for no reason. Die, ghost. Ah. Stupid ghost keeps wailing on me. I want the next Dark Elemental. Stupid Black Mage stole my Elemental while I was distracted.
Approaching station.
Here there.
He needs to get hurt. Oh yeah, is the turn-in right there then? Oh, it is.
So you came to me for a reason.
Nice.
What is it you need?
So, yeah. I might know something about that meeting at Addle's Stead. Happened a few weeks back, I think. I really didn't have any part in it.
Where's the
Me part
dwarf
was done when
voice?
Plan A failed. Damn adventurers. The guy we got on the inside for Plan B came out of Menethil. Guy
What's that
called
sound?
Slim.
Oh.
That's all I know regarding their backup plan.
Why do you sound so, like, arrogant? What happened there? You just... Oh, no. I guess I already used it. Oops. Yeah, I'll kill ghosts. I like this place because it's very unlikely that I'll get Shane linked and aggroed. I'm just going to sit in this fucking cave. I'm going to grind ghosts for, I guess, ice crystals. I mean, that's fine. Whatever. I mean, like, that's not my favorite thing, but whatever. It's still... like XP, and when I ding, this place will be a little bit less annoying, you know? These things will be a little bit easier to kill. And I mean like a little bit, but I mean every little bit helps.
Docking
So what
permission
now?
requested.
Oh, gotta go back more.
Docking
Stupid ass
permission
quests
requested.
are so boring. Go from point A to point B. Stupid fetch quests. So I just want the like look at what they do to me just so I can
Docking
get their
permission
damn
requested.
combat. I like their combat.
Docking request accepted.
Good to see you're still alive,
Autopilot
adventurer.
disabled. Waypoint
So, it
reached.
went well with Dashel then, huh? I've been reading up more on this plan of theirs, and although it doesn't state the name of the diplomat they were after, it does talk about this Plan B they
Oh,
enacted after failing
Codcloth
on
is
their
good,
first
though,
attempt to capture him. This Slim that Dashel mentioned doesn't have any other name written here, but if you say he's in Menethil, then that's a start. A contact of mine retired in the wetlands at the harbor city of Menethil. He should be willing to help on your word alone if you tell him you're working for me. His name is Mikhail. He mentioned becoming a bartender before leaving Stormwind a few years ago. Speak to him, find this Slim, and find out if there's anything else to know about this kidnapped diplomat. We need to find out where they've taken him, or at least who he is. The docket doesn't mention anything about their plans after he's captured.
They had told people that on February 5th, any color made the
Where
decision
is it
to
you would
terminate
like to
our
go,
affiliation
lass? For
contract
just a
with
few
Meiji,
coin, my
Sanji, and
griffins can
Liber,
get ye
Cell,
there
and
faster than
Tatsuki.
even the swiftest
impact of
horse.
this decision on our financial results will be negligible, and it was not fucking negligible, okay? Looking at their actual stock price, they actually dropped considerably over this situation. For instance, if you look at their stock price, again, we're going to go back like, what, 5 days in this situation? Or, well, not a month. Actually, we'll go back just 5 days. You can see that they went from a stock price of 3,615 yen, because this is on the Japanese stock exchange, and they've dropped all the way down to 3,195. It's been a 4% drop. It's not something that's good. Obviously, could they rebound? Probably, sure, but with such a backlash that's going on right now, it's gonna hurt them for a while, and especially when big brands are dipping out too. It also is so weird that this is a publicly traded company that's willing to act like children and basically ruin whatever public image they have in a matter of days in this situation. Whatever goodwill you built up, and especially as a media talent agency, that's your moneymaker, your goodwill. If you throw that away and you come across as the absolute faceless scumbags, there's no reason why people are going to want to sign up with you in the future, especially when it also appears, at least in this alleged instance, that you're not even financially providing any backing for these people to push their content. If you exist as somebody to just take money and paychecks and not provide the bare minimums to help your content creators actually elevate their content, then you are a useless talent organization and you should never be signed up with, no matter how enticing of a startup cost or a startup boon you provide. So big brands like Hype, for instance, actually ended up jumping in and basically saying because of this situation, they are cutting their ties with this organization. And of course, we at Hype want to stand alongside many VTuber fans that have ceased support for this organization. And that's because of all the bad press that they're getting. So again, other big brands all start jumping out, and it's not a good situation. The games media started picking this up, and that's pretty much the death knell of this situation. The only positive about this situation was obviously Dokibird, or Selen, had ended up, basically living through the situation. A very terrible, terrible, terrible period of her life that she had to unfortunately go through. She ended up living for the better, and she came back to an actual channel, an actual brand that belongs to her. Which is one thing that I wish, if anybody is in this industry, I look at these organizations kind of like YouTube MCNs. In a grand majority of cases, I think they exist to actually just parasitically
rip
take
people
from the
off.
actual creator and
Yep.
not
Oh,
do
yeah.
anything in return.
That's management.
But
That's what management is. Management is almost always that. Like very seldom do you need a manager. Very seldom. It's a weird culture that we use for that. Elementals are easy.
What can I help you with? For the Alliance.
Oh, there, I can see it.
Welcome to my inn, weary traveler. What can I do for you?
Stalvan sure sounds familiar. The name Stalvan rings a bell. I remember now, many years back on a stormy night, a messenger came in, seeking refuge for the night. Near the stroke of midnight, the man ran down the stairs screaming, his face pale with fear. Still wearing his bedclothes, he disappeared into the downpour. In his haste, he forgot his letters in the chest upstairs. He never returned for them. One remains from that Stalvan fellow, intended for the Canal District in Stormwind. Help yourself to it.
Hello. Safe travels.
Don't kill my tiger. My elemental
situation. She ended up coming back and talking about, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this all was the result of months and months of actual, you know, things leading to a breaking point. And she actually has medical records and, of course, statements about that specific experience. She even said in that stream that she found out literally that she was fired from the Twitter announcement. They didn't even send anything in private. She found out through Twitter she was fired and terminated from her contract. Now, because lawyers are involved, there's not much more elaboration you can build upon the bullying claims that were made, simply because I assume that there is an actual case going on, and that's pretty much what it's, you know, coming out to. So we'll find out about this years from now.
God. No,
but
no,
of
no.
course, the next big thing in this situation was how she said that she
why is
apparently
it
made zero
two?
profits
Oh,
in
my health, yeah.
2023 as selling. She ended up actually having to spend somewhere around $200,000, okay? Yes, $200,000. You know, there are people that can only wish to make that amount in a year, but that's how much she ended up having to spend in this situation as a VTuber. So even like Goldman Sachs ended up like talking about Any Color share price and how they fell because of this quarter, and obviously they address this situation as well too. And some people have been saying this sounds like an alert, but they really just talked about the fact that at least for this quarter it seems like things are a little bit tumultuous, but maybe things can come back in the future. That of course is yet to be decided. This situation I think is far from over, and given how emotionally charged it is, it can really go either way. Point is, Niji Sanji Any Color has imploded and caused some serious damage. And so beyond all of this, there has to be some response that this company has made that has to at least make some sense out of the situation, trying to claw back some level of like respect. So at this moment in time, one of the other creators,
your skill has increased.
Alldayerrydaybaby Pandora actually makes a statement, which is so wild, like getting the other talent to be your mouthpiece, when you as an organization should really be the ones that are the mouthpiece. Whether they were basically forced to do this or, you know, incentivized is a whole different story. But it ended up
God
like
damn it, I was one hit away from winning.
Where this individual was talking about the situation.
Why did two come?
You can see that it wasn't exactly received all that well. Granted, this is a dislike extension.
Oh, I keep dying. It's so annoying. I'm right back where I started.
Yes, it wasn't really accepted all that well, seemingly. Now,
at least I got the elemental
video, which again is mostly just a Niji Sanji PR post, but done through the mouths of 3 of their talent. Okay, you've got Alldayerrydaybaby Pandora.
I'm gonna get off this game now. I keep dying and I'm not focused.
These are supposed to be the friends of Selen as well, but they're
doing this for 9 hours and I'm obviously not winning. I'm gonna stop. I'm obviously tilted.
Unprofessional this is. This should have only been done through the mouthpiece of a PR representative of the company. And again, your talent is not necessarily your PR agents as well. They shouldn't be speaking on your behalf. But a quick rundown of this video, and you can watch it for yourself. It's obviously not well received, but the idea here is that the group here, Alldayerrydaybaby and obviously Niji Sanji, claim that everything here is their own words, their feelings, and obviously everything here is supposed to be approved by lawyers. And they actually claim that they have documentation from, of course, Selen's team, which of course, you know, comes up with actual examples of her, you know, bullying that had actually happened towards her, right? And that was her claimed experiences, they say. The documentation that they have actually has, you know, personal information. And of course, they noticed that if some of that information is apparently, you know, brought ever into the public, these people could potentially be doxxed, for instance, right? Which, you know, the documents, I guess, imply a rough location of where they actually live. And of course, they also alluded to, again, you know, basically telling everyone that.
I mean, I guess I can just hard because I'm gonna log. I think.
Had some favorites that they were playing, and apparently there was a secretly recorded conversation talking about this that she was using for documented evidence for her case. In fact, Dokibird even talks about this specific situation too. In fact, a lot of the documentation was meant for her, the staff at Niji Sanji, and the legal teams involved. Never to be shared with the actual, you know, friends of her, or ex-friends, I would say, or a lot of the other talent. In fact, it appears, at least it seems, based on Dokibird, that some of this documentation contained medical information, which, being that she's from Canada, this would be information that wouldn't allow to be freely shared because of PIPEDA laws. And again, if Niji Sanji is claiming to share this information, it doesn't matter what kind of NDAs
15 grand
have,
for
no matter what
Arimontiers, nice.
These could be serious issues for them legally. But then again, with the way that they've handled this shit so unprofessionally, I don't think they